At 8 years old, Soma regained memories from his previous life and discovered a rare talent that allowed him to see his own skill levels. Using that ability, he trained for years and steadily increased his strength while exploring areas near his village. By the age of 13, his path brought him to the kingdom of Krattenberg, known for its prestigious educational institutions. After overcoming a difficult entrance examination, he entered the academy and joined the opening ceremony with other successful applicants. As the speech praised talented students and honorable knights, the ceremony hall echoed with pledges of loyalty, pride, and respect as the new students listened to the academy's ideals. Soon after, an instructor explained that the academy was protected by renowned knights and divided into 6 different classes. Each class was represented by a color, including emerald, yellow, scarlet, and blue. Giving students a glimpse of the academy's structure, attention quickly shifted to the black class, whose intimidating reputation caused unease among the newcomers. Before class assignments began, the students were informed that a talent and skill assessment would determine their placement. The academy introduced the 6 great knight orders, explaining how each group supported the kingdom's stability and strength. As the presentation continued, the students listened carefully while learning about the balance maintained between the orders. Meanwhile, Soma reflected on his reincarnated life, his upbringing in a large family, and the path that brought him there. Rather than follow a simple future, he decided to pursue the path of a knight. Thanks to years of training, exceptional talents, and memories from his previous life, he passed the academy's examinations with ease. Soma overheard a conversation and wondered whether such bold opinions could truly be expressed so openly. Meanwhile, the white delegate calmly stood by his beliefs, showing no hesitation as students left the hall. From a distance, Soma listened, while learning that cooperation between knights was considered essential for the kingdom. Further discussion revealed the delegate's view that nobles and commoners should be treated equally within the academy. As the exchange continued, attention shifted to personal circumstances. Soma questioned why the white delegate continued defending his beliefs, despite facing criticism and isolation from those around him. Without hesitation, the delegate accepted the burden, believing that someone had to stand for those principles. His determination left an impression on Soma, who then remembered the upcoming class distribution and hurried away. Soon afterward, a teacher named Torgen introduced himself as the instructor responsible for the new students. The assessment process began, and every student prepared to have their talents measured. The assessment began with outstanding results as a noble student achieved a skill level of 325, drawing admiration from the crowd. Many students reacted with amazement, while Soma recognized the student as the person connected to the third prince. Soon afterward, the class assignment was announced, placing the talented noble into the prestigious White Riders class. A magical device continued evaluating students, attracting attention as it revealed their abilities and future placements. Another candidate achieved a level of 268, surprising the newcomers and showing that exceptional talent was far from rare. The evaluations continued as more students received their results. One candidate was assigned to the Black Soldier class despite having a relatively low skill level. Whispers quickly spread through the crowd, and many students grew uneasy after recalling the intimidating reputation of that class. Meanwhile, Soma imagined a stable future through the Emerald Aegis class, while waiting for his own turn. To his surprise, the examiner called him the top scorer of the capital examination. Confusion swept through the hall as students realized the highest-ranked applicant was an unknown commoner named Soma. When Soma's turn arrived, he worried about revealing his unusual talent and the extremely high level he had hidden for years. Unexpectedly, the measuring device displayed a value of only 12, leaving both Soma and the examiner confused. Silence spread through the room as the surprisingly low result appeared before the gathered students. Soon afterward, laughter and ridicule broke out as many assumed Soma was weak, despite his top examination rank. Realizing something had gone wrong, Soma quickly tried to stop the misunderstanding before it grew worse. Soma tried to explain that the result was incorrect, but the examiner firmly trusted the measuring orb and dismissed his objections. While the assessment continued, Soma anxiously hoped for a favorable class assignment, despite the misunderstanding. Moments later, the academy assigned him to the Black Soldier class, crushing his expectations. After the ceremony ended, Soma was directed to the Black Soldier dormitory and shown his new room. Sitting alone inside the dorm, he reflected on the unexpected outcome and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. Alone in his room, Soma finally realized the academy's measuring orb could not display 4-digit values, explaining the strange result before he could think further. A new roommate arrived and immediately doubted the existence of such an extraordinary level. The newcomer introduced himself as Rit, while Soma noticed a third resident, Sven, quietly occupying the room. After brief introductions, the three students became acquainted as Soma shared his name with his roommates. Wanting a more comfortable arrangement, Rit suggested dividing the room with curtains. While settling into the dormitory, Soma and Rit turned a simple curtain arrangement into a playful argument about privacy and shared space. Soon afterward, Soma announced his plan to verify his true skill level with a device capable of measuring 4-digit values. Rit questioned his intentions, while Sven bluntly criticized the Black Soldier class and its reputation within the academy. Remembering the opening ceremony, Soma recalled that every Night Order played an important role. Outside the room, the white delegate reflected on the balance between the 6 Night Orders, reinforcing the same belief. Rit firmly stated that belonging to the Black Soldier class was nothing to be ashamed of and encouraged Soma to stop worrying about it. Although skeptical about Soma's claims, Rit remained curious about what he might accomplish in the future. Embarrassed by his earlier remarks, Soma apologized, causing the room to erupt into a chaotic exchange of reactions. After calming down, he reached a decision and chose to stop dwelling on his class assignment. With renewed determination, Soma vowed to improve the Black Soldier class and make it respected throughout the academy. Soma lost his mother early, then his father died at 50, leaving him a failing company. To support the business, he quit college and gave up his part-time job. Workers criticized him and doubted his leadership. Nevertheless, he struggled alone to keep the company alive. After a year of non-stop effort, exhaustion steadily overwhelmed him. Wanting only a stable career and ordinary life, Soma pushed himself too far. Accumulated fatigue ended his life at 23. Memories of his previous life suddenly returned, leaving young Soma shocked by how foolishly he had died. At 8 years old, he met a strange being and realized his memories came from reincarnation. Determined not to repeat his mistakes, Soma entered a night academy, seeking a stable future. While exploring the campus with classmates, he was stopped by a noble girl named Elysia. Elysia boldly ordered the group to become her followers, but Soma calmly refused any involvement, leaving his companions surprised. Soma misunderstood Elysia's intentions and happily believed she wanted to be friends with his group. Instead, Elysia ordered her followers to restrain them, while preparing to prove her superiority. Her companions praised her famous kicking talent, convinced no ordinary student could withstand it. Without hesitation, Elysia launched a powerful spinning kick straight toward Soma. The attack failed spectacularly, leaving Elysia embarrassed. Meanwhile, Soma and the others could only stare at the unexpected outcome. Embarrassed by the accident, Elysia angrily blamed Soma for witnessing her failed attack. While she continued arguing, Soma casually apologized, making the situation even more awkward. Before tensions could rise further, a group of academy elites arrived and questioned Elysia's conduct. The newcomers revealed noble status and immediately drew everyone's attention. Recognizing one of them, Soma greeted the student cheerfully. His unexpected familiarity left the surrounding nobles stunned. Soma quickly apologized and claimed the earlier conflict was only a misunderstanding. The nobles accepted the explanation and ended the dispute. As the group prepared to leave, Soma mentioned they were heading to the dining hall, interested by their destination. One noble decided to accompany them for a meal soon. They entered the academy's luxurious dining hall and admired its grand atmosphere. After tasting the food, Soma was completely amazed, enjoying a meal far better than anything he expected. While enjoying the meal, Soma wondered why several nobles had suddenly joined their table. One noble asked why they had been invited, curious about the unexpected gathering. Lord Largenberg revealed an interest in Soma after noticing his unusual exam results. Some students suspected Soma had cheated, but he calmly dismissed the accusation. The discussion grew heated as rivals belittled his abilities. Meanwhile, Largenberg remained friendly and continued speaking with Soma despite their objections. Kiltoryugu insisted Soma call him by a friendly nickname, surprising the other nobles at the table. When another student threatened to report the matter, Kiltoryugu casually revealed he was the third prince's brother. Soma realized his formal speech came from hearing the prince during the entrance ceremony, amusing Kiltoryugu later. Kiltoryugu reflected on his wish to help others more freely. Watching Soma's humble behavior, he praised the commoner's character and considered it a genuinely admirable quality. Soma asked Kiltoryugu to call him normally, making their conversation feel much less formal. Treeing the new nickname, Kiltoryugu smiled warmly. His expression surprised everyone at the table, especially Soma. The discussion shifted toward the entrance exam and the subject students found most difficult. Rumors about Soma's nearly perfect mathematics score soon became the center of attention. Impressed by his results, Kiltoryugu invited Soma to study together. However, Soma casually admitted he disliked studying. When Kiltoryugu offered steak in exchange for study help, Soma immediately accepted the proposal. Before leaving, Kiltori promised to meet Soma again and oddly asked him not to change. After the nobles departed, Rit stared at Soma in disbelief, struggling to process what had happened. Elysia warned that Rit was overthinking the situation, though the concern only grew stronger. The discussion ended when Elysia unexpectedly remembered Rit's full name, leaving everyone surprised by the small detail. Elysia grew frustrated by Soma's teasing and chased him around while the others watched the commotion. Later, the group received black uniforms and learned they had been assigned to a newly formed class. A senior student warned them that only half the class would advance, while the rest would be forced to leave. The next day, the new students gathered for their first lesson. Their homeroom teacher introduced himself as Ginnabrand and welcomed them to the academy's black class. Ginnabrand looked over the students and bluntly stated that none of them seemed particularly impressive. He explained that the black class carried the academy's worst reputation and faced the lowest expectations. Before leaving, Ginnabrand revealed that advancement depended on passing tests and winning class battles. He then delivered a message from the next instructor, claiming the smartest student should teach everyone else. To Soma's shock, the teacher identified him as the class's most talented student and placed the responsibility on him. The class learned that no teacher would be guiding them, since the strongest student was expected to lead. Attention quickly shifted towards Soma. Without hesitation, one classmate insisted that Soma should take responsibility for teaching everyone. Before long, criticism spread among the students. Rather than arguing back, Soma quietly accepted the situation and realized most of the class held a negative opinion of him. Watching from nearby, Rit became concerned. She understood that Soma was facing growing pressure from his classmates. Remembering Rit, the third prince, and Kiru, Soma decided that every knight deserved support. Standing up, Soma admitted he had handled things poorly. He accepted responsibility and prepared to address the growing frustration around him. Turning toward the students, he called for everyone's attention. The class reacted with surprise as he began outlining his plan. Many students insisted they could succeed through hard work alone. Hearing their complaints, Soma understood their feelings. He acknowledged their anger and urged the class to follow his lead. Soma boldly addressed the class and promised to help everyone improve. He urged them to study, train harder, and prove that the academy had underestimated them. The students fell silent in surprise. While many remained doubtful, they listened as Soma stepped forward with confidence. After the crowd began leaving, Rit approached him. She questioned whether he truly intended to fulfill the promise he had just made. Soma confirmed his plan without hesitation. Since the teachers refused to guide them, remembering another commitment, Soma prepared to leave. Soma met a swordsman who believed steady training was the path to growth. While listening, he reflected on his abilities and noticed a serious problem. Without textbooks or teaching materials, Soma could not decide how to guide the class. Seeking advice, he visited Kiru and shared his concerns. Soon after arriving, Soma greeted Kiru and the others. As attention turned toward him, he prepared to explain the challenge he faced. Kiru defended Soma from the students and led him away to a quieter place in the academy garden. Away from the crowd, Kiru shared her concerns about the harsh treatment of the black class. Soma was relieved that she still trusted him. As they talked, Soma explained that their backgrounds were different. Then he decided to ask Kiru for help. Remembering his problem, Soma asked whether Kiru's class had textbooks available. When Kiru agreed, Soma immediately requested to borrow them. At last, he found a way to begin preparing lessons for his classmates. Soma thanked Kiru for lending the textbooks. Although she dismissed his gratitude, he felt indebted to her kindness. After agreeing to help, Kiru promised to bring the books to the black dorm. Soma's biggest concern was finally resolved. Watching her leave, Soma realized he knew little about the upper class, despite their generosity. Later, stacks of textbooks arrived at the dorm. The students were shocked by how many books had been gathered. Rit examined the pile with suspicion, while Soma proudly admired the result, to copy the textbooks. Soma asked Rit for help. After some bargaining, she agreed to assist with the large workload. While sorting the books, Soma explained that he had enough money from his previous activities to cover the expenses. His savings came from hunting beasts and capturing wanted criminals before entering the academy. As preparations began, Soma noticed Suwon resting in bed from exhaustion and remembered how hard he trained. Curious about the reason for Suwon's low level, Soma examined his skills and searched for an answer. While checking Suwon's status, Soma noticed something unusual. His skill growth seemed far lower than it should have been. Suwon suddenly woke up and caught Soma investigating his condition. After hearing about Soma's ability to measure skill levels, Suwon connected it to the strange comments Soma had made earlier. Realizing the explanation made sense, Suen asked whether Soma could help improve his skill level. Having no other solution left, Suen requested sword training from Soma and placed his hopes on him. Soma watched Suen train and quickly realized his swordsmanship lacked proper technique despite years of effort, stopping the practice. Soma explained that Suen had wasted time repeating ineffective movements without understanding the basics. To demonstrate, Soma swung his sword and revealed a level of swordsmanship far beyond Suen's expectations. The attack unleashed a powerful skill, leaving Suen stunned by the difference between them. Recognizing Soma's ability, Suen immediately accepted him as a teacher and begged to learn proper swordsmanship. After 2 hours of training, Suen's swordsmanship improved. Excited by the result, he became even more determined to learn from Soma. Suen eagerly accepted Soma as his master. Before class began, the two headed back toward the academy together. At the training grounds, the black class gathered and waited, hoping a teacher would finally appear. The silence continued until some students grew impatient. Their frustration quickly turned toward Soma once again. Ignoring the complaints, Soma headed to find the martial arts instructor. Suen followed closely behind, curious about what would happen next. Soma and Suen visited the martial arts instructor to ask about the missing class. The teacher appeared surprised to see them. After confirming they belonged to the black class, the instructor listened to their concerns. Soma pointed out that the class was supposed to be taught that day. According to the instructor, the lesson had been cancelled on orders from the dormitory manager. Soma was left stunned by the explanation. Although frustrated, Soma accepted the situation. He decided to return and inform the rest of the class about what had happened. After learning the truth, Soma was furious. Unable to accept the unfair decision, he questioned why the dormitory manager had cancelled the black class's lesson. A student discovers their class has been suddenly cancelled and suspects the dorm manager is involved. Determined to uncover the truth, he marches to the manager's room, demanding answers with growing frustration. When his calls are ignored, the student threatens to break in, escalating the tension between them. He charges the door with force, activating a skill as he prepares to confront resistance. A powerful kick smashes through the barrier, launching the door open with explosive impact. He barges into the room, catching the dorm manager in a suspicious situation. Tension rises as a girl hides behind the manager, sparking confusion over her presence in the boys' dorm. Angered, the manager hurls a bottle across the room in retaliation. While holding the bottle, the student realizes the manager skipped class to drink and flirt. Without mercy, he drags the manager outside, demanding an explanation while preventing his escape. After an hour, tension remains between the student and the dorm manager. Neither backing down, gathered classmates confront the manager, demanding a reason for their cancelled class. He reveals that a lack of donations forced him to halt activities due to budget constraints. The students learn that their class, made up of commoners, receives no support and is overlooked. A dorm rule requires all students to stay together, blocking alternatives like off-campus living. He proposes rewriting the rules, but the manager laughs, noting the upper class already bends them. A shocking truth emerges: the manager was once an aristocrat, now mocking the idea of change. Students learn a yearly exam determines class funding, with failure leading to teacher accountability and expulsions. Pressure mounts as predictions of mass expulsion threaten their future, especially for the lowest performers. The manager coldly declares the black class as easy prey, reinforcing elite dominance without remorse. Dorm manager coldly urges the students to quit school, claiming those who leave make others happier. Ignoring the manager's words, a student surprises everyone by presenting a large sum of money. He offers to fund the martial arts class, explaining his intent to invest in his classmates. In return, he asks them not to drop out, vowing to support them without repayment. Success and graduation, he says, will be their repayment with interest through effort and results. Suma reassures his classmates, promising to handle the preparations and push everyone to work hard. Upon entering the classroom, they're stunned to find attendance critically low. Concern rises as Suma considers covering the costs himself to prevent more dropouts. A classmate questions his selflessness, wondering why he's so determined to help. He reflects on his past life, vowing never to feel powerless again. Suma notices a classmate with a familiar gaze, one that reflects his own past struggles. Determined not to fall behind, he acknowledges that without collective effort, even his presence won't be enough. They agree to move forward, leaving the topic behind with mutual understanding. Class begins, and Suma reminds another student not to underestimate themselves. A shy girl named Ruchika nervously joins the class, eager to be part of their journey. Ruchika joins Suma's lesson with enthusiasm, marking a small but meaningful beginning. As Suma quizzes them, His interactive method surprises the students, who expected only note-taking. The class admits their learning habits were passive, and now they feel challenged to improve. Suma proudly defends his teaching style, which others now see as motivating and effective. She, smiling shyly, tells Suma that his lessons are genuinely enjoyable and inspiring. Ruchika bows and begs Suma to keep teaching, determined not to drop out of school. Suddenly, a furious student storms in, calling Suma a dog and causing panic. He accuses Ruchika of flirting with Suma and lashes out in jealousy and anger. Mocking Suma's level, he insults Ruchika for associating with someone inferior. Without hesitation, Suma strikes back, launching a powerful kick that sends the bully flying. Ruchika rushes toward the fallen boy, calling out to him as her brother, shocking everyone. She kneels beside him in concern, realizing his pain is real, despite his behavior. A teacher arrives after the incident, ordering both students to the disciplinary room. Inside, the teacher expresses disappointment, labeling their class as violent and unruly. He sternly warns that class doesn't excuse disrespect and threatens expulsion for arrogance and misconduct. Both students are warned that expulsion is easy for anyone causing trouble, especially repeat offenders. The instructor orders them to behave, emphasizing that their future hangs on upcoming test results. One student swears to stay out of trouble, while another quietly notices the teacher's odd behavior. On their way out, tensions remain high as insults are exchanged. Rather than argue, he brushes it off and walks away without another word. A teacher sits alone in his room, visibly distressed amid papers and potion bottles. Suma knocks and enters, requesting a serious conversation. Without permission, he steps inside and observes the lab-like setup before being sternly told to leave. He confronts the teacher directly, asking if their treatment is being influenced by outside orders. A student challenges the teacher, suspecting he is under orders to make certain students drop out. He asserts the teacher has the power to expel them and wonders if they're being used as examples. Pointing to the teacher's actions, he claims no one would go to such lengths unless they genuinely cared. The student believes there must be personal reasons behind it. Finally, the teacher admits his actions stem from trouble with Tocha and external pressures seeking their expulsion, despite martial arts class. Continuing, the other instructors reject teaching the boys' class entirely. He's blamed for the situation, leaving him shocked and confused as to why it centers around him. The school's deep-rooted classism is exposed. Commoners succeeding threatens upper-class pride, causing unrest. The teacher tries to end the discussion, stating their youth makes them unfit to decide their own fate. Challenging that view, the student insists their future shouldn't be dictated by adults with outdated ideals. Suma declares his intention to help the black class succeed in the upcoming test, accepting any consequences. The teacher advises him not to let anyone drop out, as it would impact the class's average. He acknowledges the advice with a smile and quietly takes his leave. Upon returning, he learns Elysia succeeded in persuading the others to cooperate. Encouraged by unity, the students commit to attending Suma's next lesson together. Elysia passionately claims responsibility for her underlings, while Suma humbly accepts the role. Suddenly, a furious student storms in, rejecting the idea of joining the class. Frustrated by the attention a commoner receives, he lashes out, threatening consequences. With pride wounded, Tocha challenges Suma to a duel, declaring it a matter of honor. The next day, both stand face to face on the dueling ground as students gather to witness. Tocha's challenge raises concern. His family's spear skills are formidable, yet Suma remains calm. Worried students fear Suma's lack of confidence could cost him his life. As the duel is formally announced, spectators are called upon to lend their spirit, turning the battle into a learning moment for all. Supporters rally behind both duelists, while Tocha prepares his spear, eager to demonstrate his family's technique. With the command given, Tocha charges forward, initiating the match with powerful momentum. Tocha launches his first attack raw and powerful, but lacking refined technique. The strike is revealed as a feint, intended to mislead and open the way for a second move. Spectators are stunned as Suma evades with precision, leaving even Tocha in disbelief. Confusion grows, movements become unpredictable, and feints are exchanged in rapid succession. Before the first strike could land, Suma counters with a sudden burst, catching Tocha off guard, mid-grapple. Momentum shifts as Suma forcefully pulls Tocha off balance, slamming him down with precision. Tocha is launched into the air. Suma urges him to continue, demanding to see true spear technique. Instead, Tocha lies unconscious on the ground, unable to rise after the clash. Victory is declared. Suma Marcus Rex stands tall as the winner of the duel. After the intense match, Suma quietly crouches down, questioning if his win was truly acceptable. Following the duel, more students began attending Suma's class, drawn by his strength and resolve. Despite the increase, several still stayed away, and Tocha remained isolated in his room. Exhausted from teaching alone, Suma rested at his desk while friends suggested sword training. Their conversation was interrupted by a mysterious girl politely asking for a moment of their time. Inside a grand room, she apologized to Suma for calling him suddenly. He reassured her with a smile. Kiru opens the conversation by bringing up Suma's duel, clearly intrigued by the rumors. Reactions quickly grow animated as others beg him to stop with reckless actions, confirming the rumor has spread. Another exaggerated tale surfaces claims that Suma won without even using his limbs. With sincere eyes, Kiru expresses deep gratitude, hoping Suma remains in her life and succeeds as a knight. Suma gently warns her against dangerous acts like duels, admitting he should have said so earlier. Kiru reveals a secret plan to transfer Suma to a higher class by faking noble status. Worried about the test results, she warns that Suma risks expulsion if he remains where he is. Startled, Suma panics, pleading for a moment to respond. Instead of switching, he confidently declares his commitment to stay and fight as a black class student. Motivated by his resolve, the entire class pledges to work hard together to avoid anyone being expelled. Suma confidently assures Kiru he won't be expelled, reminding her of the 6 knights and classes that uphold the empire. He emphasizes that each class plays a vital role in sustaining the nation's strength and unity. Pointing out her bias, Suma urges Kiru not to look down on the others, or she'd be in the wrong. Seeing her regret, he comforts her kindly, praising her realization. Encouragingly, he asks if her true goal is to elevate white class. Suma cheerfully declares he'll become Kiru's greatest rival, asking if she's ready for the challenge. She responds with joyful confidence. Their rivalry turns friendly as both laugh, determined not to lose to each other. Later, Kiru treats Suma to a celebratory meal, lightening the mood after their emotional exchange. Stuffed and sleepy, Suma strolls back content, praising the academy's steak. Suddenly, a mysterious meow grabs his attention, breaking the quiet. Drawn by a series of meows, Suma follows the sound into the bushes, curious and cautious. Instead of a cat, he unexpectedly finds a girl crouched down, leaving him completely stunned. Suma stumbled upon a girl crouching near a tree, curiously observing a white cat, noticing her skirt color. He realized she was from the all-girls Scarlet class. The girl froze as the cat abruptly ran off, sensing Suma's presence behind her. Turning quickly, she locked eyes with him, startled and alert, embarrassed. She demanded answers, while Suma frantically denied seeing anything inappropriate. The girl confronted Suma, accusing him of seeing something he shouldn't. He insisted he was only watching the cat. Her frustration exploded as she misunderstood, while Suma realized she meant the cat named Ryuryu, although he admitted to seeing her earlier. Suma teased that meowing wouldn't work on cats. Flustered, she shouted back, refusing to forgive him despite his apologies. Eventually, they shifted focus, agreeing to chase after the elusive class. Suma offered a truce. She could cuddle the cat freely if they moved past the misunderstanding. Real Rose grew emotional, caught off guard by his unexpected kindness. She made him promise to keep his word, warning there'd be consequences otherwise. With a serious expression, she declared her name and demanded he vow properly, raising her weapon. Without warning, she escalated it into a duel, leaving Suma stunned by the sudden turn. Suma awoke to find his roommate already studying diligently at the table. He brought up Real Rose Axia Granberg, curious about what others knew of her. His roommate identified her as the Sword Princess of the Snow, a name whispered with awe. She explained Real Rose was the second most famous student in their year, known for her excellence. Despite her striking appearance, Real Rose was feared for being strict respected, yet envied by many. Real Rose's combat skill was rumored to be over 250, yet Suma couldn't reconcile that with her emotional side. Despite his usual confidence, he openly admitted he didn't want to fight someone titled Sword Princess. His roommate suspected something and warned Suma against doing anything reckless. While Suma praised her dedication, she humbly insisted she only did the bare minimum. She reminded him there was something important he wanted to discuss. Rit apologized, lowering his head, while Suma looked on in surprise. He confessed to secretly hoping Suma would be hurt in battle, thinking it might ground him in reality. Unaware Suma was already above level 1000, Rit regretted underestimating him. Concern replaced resentment as Rit pleaded with Suma to take better care of himself. Filled with guilt, Rit admitted his thoughts were cruel and decided to change for the better. Rit, with renewed spirit, promised Suma full support for helping their class. Hearing Suma mention both Rit and Kiru, Rit listened intently, surprised but focused. Suma smiled, recognizing their ability to learn from mistakes and grow. With a cheerful grin, Rit proposed an open conversation about Suma's hidden talents. Later that night, while the others slept soundly, Rit lay awake, pondering Suma's mysterious strength. Curious about his secret, Rit questioned Suma, who revealed his unique ability to see skill levels and talents. Learning how easily he could level up, Rit was shocked by the potential advantage. Most knights trained in one weapon, but that approach limited growth. Using Suma's insight, they realized rotating through multiple weapons could boost skill progression rapidly. His strategy aimed to elevate the entire class by unlocking extra skills and stat bonuses. Shock hit Rit hard. He finally accepted Suma's level, exceeded 1000. Reflecting on their first meeting, Rit realized Suma would have been placed in an elite class if not for the error. Lying in bed, he wrestled with guilt, understanding the weight of his earlier assumptions. The next day, Suma revealed Rit's skill level results, sparking a new realization. His stats had dropped, prompting Suma to question his recent practice routine. Suma advised Rit to keep training, explaining that even slight improvements could be maintained long-term. Reviewing less developed stats like scamming and writing, Rit reacted in disbelief, eyes wide at the numbers. With a gentle pat, Suma encouraged him to continue, and they resumed their study session. Later that night, Rit hugged his blanket close, clearly moved by the support. Morning arrived as the school bell rang, marking a new day of growth. Attendance kept rising in class, with only Tocha and his group still absent. A classmate praised the lessons for being easy to follow, and noted Suma's growing reputation. He began worrying about preparing everyone for exams, but lacked past materials. Memories of a confident rival offering help crossed his mind, though hesitation lingered. Pride stopped him from relying on that offer. It would have felt too embarrassing to admit. Suma decided to head toward Kiru's room, reflecting on what couldn't be changed. While walking the path, a sharp feeling of forgetting something struck him. Suddenly, a voice called out, reminding him of a promise he hadn't kept. Real Rose stood in front of him, furious that he forgot his vow to catch Ryuryu. Suma suddenly recalled a forgotten promise as the girl stood before him in the forest. She glared silently, her expression sharp with growing anger as he fumbled for an excuse. He tried explaining himself, blaming school tests and a cat, but she saw through the lies. Without hesitation, she drew her sword, declaring a duel to hold him to his vow. Cornered, Suma panicked and agreed to the duel, knowing he couldn't escape her determination. Suma assessed her strength, noting her high sword level and bonuses, but felt confident due to his special skills. He proposed an open space nearby for the duel, assuring her he could fight bare-handed. The girl responded with intensity, sword drawn, while Suma began to doubt if he underestimated her. She asked if he was ready. He agreed, letting her signal the beginning of the match. Without hesitation, she charged forward, declaring she wouldn't hold back. While dodging swiftly, Suma noticed she was holding back and found it unexpectedly considerate. Seeing an opening, he grabbed a nearby rock just as she prepared to attack again. He hurled the rock, which collided with her blade, and broke it, shocking them both. As they paused, Suma reminded her that they were still mid-fight, but she looked stunned. Acknowledging her broken weapon, he suggested delaying the duel, realizing her physical strength was limited. Despite her broken sword, she gripped the hilt firmly and declared the fight wasn't over. Activating her hidden ability, she unleashed an extra skill, causing a sudden shift in the battle. With intense force, she launched forward and released a powerful piercing attack. Suma quickly raised his rock and activated Shock Absorber, bracing for impact. The two forces clashed violently, sending a shockwave and debris flying across the field. After withstanding the shockwave, Suma dashed forward and grabbed her hand, halting her attack. He calmly explained how he could have seriously injured her but chose not to, despite his pain. Hearing his words, she dropped to her knees and began crying uncontrollably, overwhelmed by emotion. Silently, she raised her sword toward him, surprising Suma with her sudden gesture. In a burst of emotion, she screamed and pushed him away, rejecting his attempt to help. Frustrated, Suma yelled at her, emphasizing that she would have died if he hadn't stepped in. Trembling, she confessed that as a Granberg, losing meant disgrace and to her, death. In response, he scolded her playfully, despite the pain in his own injured hand. He insisted life was worth more than a duel, telling her to sit properly and listen. With conviction, Suma told her that losing was part of growth and essential to move forward. Hearing his words, she began to question herself, unsure if her way of thinking was wrong. Suma pushed her to stop depending on others for answers and to reflect independently, although unsure. She admitted it was unfamiliar to her and didn't know how to start. He realized she had been raised to follow instructions, not to decide things on her own. Smiling with hope, she brightened up as he offered to help her find a better path. Suma promised to keep his word, while she expressed a desire to learn, eager to improve. Curiously, she asked if he wanted anything as a reward for defeating her in the duel. Though he initially refused, he soon remembered something and made a request that startled her. Later that night, Suma wandered the dark woods, stepping outside the dorm for the first time. Suddenly, he encountered a strange scene, two men hiding, and one of them quickly covered his mouth. One of the boys warned Suma that being caught sneaking out could land him in detention for a week. Jokingly, the blonde boy teased him, assuming Suma was out late to meet a girl. Suma stayed cautious as his friend dashed off to meet someone. Eventually, Suma found the girl from earlier waiting discreetly near the Scarlet Dorm's gazebo. She quietly handed him last year's exam paper, intending to help him prepare for upcoming tests. Suma was surprised to learn that students kept past exams hidden in their dorms for future use. He asked for 5 years' worth, but she explained he could only borrow one at a time. Impressed by the Scarlet class's intel-gathering lessons, Suma thanked her excitedly. She blushed and questioned why he addressed her so formally, clearly flustered, embarrassed. She reminded him that social ranks didn't matter here, and calling her miss was unnecessary. Suma encouraged her to just call him by his name, like his close friends did. After hesitating, she shared that only those close to her call her really. Smiling, they exchanged names, a small but sincere sign of mutual trust. Later, Suma reflected on how strange it felt to be called affectionately by someone his age. He admitted it felt odd. His soul was mature, yet trapped in a 13-year-old's body. Later that night, Suma met with another student, inside room 503, handing over the borrowed test paper. The boy grew upset, thinking Suma had stolen the paper without permission. Defending himself, Suma insisted he borrowed it properly and didn't break any rules. When asked who gave it to him, Suma hesitated, then mentioned Really from the Scarlet class. His classmate was shocked but more amazed by someone else sneaking out to meet a girl. Suma handed over the paper, and the boy agreed to help but demanded double the usual reward. After some back-and-forth negotiation, they settled on the increased rate with mild frustration. They began analyzing the test paper, quickly organizing a lesson plan based on its structure. With only 2 weeks remaining, Suma committed himself fully, determined to succeed on the exam. Suma and a classmate are surprised to learn the prestigious Emerald class is showing interest in their low-ranked Black class. It is revealed that students from the upper classes are now paying attention to Black class activities. Other students suspect the interest is due to Suma's presence. He declares his intention to surpass even the elite White class with Black class's performance. Tension rises when Suma discovers classmates have been secretly selling his notes for profit. A loud call draws attention as a student rushes toward Eliza, causing nearby classmates to react in alarm. Annoyed, she steps forward, demanding to know what's going on, while 2 others bolt from the room. Selling class notes to Emerald students is exposed, linked to those in her circle. Surprised, she admits receiving gifts that were part of the scheme. Turns out Emerald struggles under one teacher handling everything alone. Members of Emerald class are revealed to belong to elite upper-class families, adding pressure to the situation. Rather unconcerned, Suma shrugs off the leak. Noting that a few shared notes won't damage class average, concern rises among classmates, questioning whether action should be taken against the offense. Tracking the culprits leads them to Emerald class's assigned room down a long corridor. Suddenly, a sharp voice scolds them harshly, catching everyone off guard and leaving them speechless. A teacher harshly criticizes the Emerald class in front of the entire hall, branding them unworthy of their title. During class, her lack of actual teaching becomes apparent. No notes, no guidance, only scolding. Confused, students struggle to even identify what lesson is supposed to be happening. Rumors surface that she once aimed for the top class but faced rejection. Apparently, resentment shaped her path to teaching, as revealed in a nobles meeting. An idea strikes: eliminate the weakest by reassigning the bottom 5 scorers in the next exam. Gasps follow as the plan unfolds: transfer them to Black class, deemed unworthy of knighthood. Smirking, the instructor mocks the decision as fitting for those failing to meet expectations. Fury builds. Rit nearly lashes out, but is held back, barely controlling her reaction. Guilt creeps in. Breaking rules and spying may now bring consequences neither anticipated. A timid student trembles under harsh scrutiny, her sadness immediately provoking the teacher's anger. Tears spill as weakness is openly mocked, judged unfit for someone training to be a knight. Whispers reveal noble rivalry, explaining why the girl draws such relentless attention. Suspicion grows that constant pressure is deliberate, meant to force failure. Worse still, test results could reverse class rankings, placing responsibility squarely on her shoulders. Unfair pressure weighs heavily as responsibility is pushed onto a young student, exposing flaws in the system. Anger erupts when interference is blocked, halting an attempt to silence growing frustration. Stepping forward, a challenge is issued directly to the teacher, stunning everyone watching. Confidence sharpens as a declaration is made to overturn expectations through results alone. Everything now hinges on proving teaching ability through black class's performance. Tension spikes as a bold challenge is thrown, questioning authority and dragging a missing teacher into the dispute. Logic replaces anger, proposing a wager based on class averages and teaching results. Confidence sharpens when the bet is accepted, turning pride into a public test. Students watch nervously, unsure which class will prevail. Everything settles on a final condition. Victory decides who deserves to teach Emerald class. Amusement flickers behind a smile as the bet is formally accepted. Reputation and pride clearly on the line. Witnesses fill the room, ensuring every condition is public and impossible to deny later. Strict rules follow immediately, forbidding absence and closing all escape routes. Cruel determination surfaces, forcing participation regardless of health or condition. Watching quietly, Suma recognizes the obsession driving her actions and prepares to respond. Shock lingers after the confrontation, leaving Rich shaken while preparations for the test resume. Elsewhere, a group gathers quietly, already reacting to news spreading through the academy. Questions arise about Suma's actions, drawing concern from those watching his sudden defiance. Doubt follows him down the corridor, motives remaining unclear even to observers. Despite criticism and low expectations, resolve hardens, pushing him forward regardless. A quiet smile forms as trust is revealed, rivalry becoming the reason for belief rather than doubt. Interruptions cut the moment short, forcing attention toward chaos building nearby. Before long, news of the confrontation spreads across the academy, stirring unease. Information about the upcoming test begins circulating, quietly shaping strategies. Pressure tightens when consequences are announced, making absence or failure a heavy risk. A troublesome group is identified as a hidden weakness, threatening any plan to defeat Emerald class. Realizing inaction means certain loss, determination forms as a risky solution is quietly considered. Tocha and his group stood firm, seen as the final barrier to victory. Meanwhile, Suma quietly reflected, realizing he had to act before things worsened. Distracted during training, he snapped back to focus when confronted with a wooden blade. Regaining form, he countered powerfully, impressing his partner with a sudden leap in skill. When asked to check his stats, he declined, choosing to stay motivated until after the test. Suma watched his friend practicing with intense focus, admiring his commitment. Curious about a sound nearby, Suma offered to investigate while holding his training sword. Peeking behind a tree, he spotted a shirtless boy unleashing powerful strikes against a log. The boy collapsed from exhaustion, gasping for air, overwhelmed by his own training. Suma was stunned to realize it was Tocha, now surprisingly slim and full of determination. Startled, Tocha shouted for the hidden observers to reveal themselves. He tried to deny training, but his breathlessness gave him away. Rather than mock, Suma casually asked if he'd like to join them. Training with partners offered more benefits, and Suma laid out each one clearly. Embarrassed and overwhelmed, Tocha turned away in frustration, unsure of how to respond to the unexpected kindness. Suin exploded in frustration, demanding to know what Suma was thinking. Unfazed, Suma explained that real opponents improve combat instincts faster. Frustration boiled over again, but Suin was reminded to mind his words. Later at school, Eliza stopped Suma in the hallway with a message from Ruchika. Waiting nervously, Ruchika hesitated before apologizing for interrupting, her expression filled with shy sincerity. Suma encouraged her to speak, and she mentioned it was about her brother. She revealed being the youngest of 8 siblings, which surprised Suma. Eliza explained Ruchika's household situation, where many siblings came from different mothers. Ruchika quietly shared that only Tocha was born from the same mother, and they grew up isolated. Despite that, Tocha earned praise for his talent, though aristocratic status still required a donation for school entry. Suma learned the donation funds weren't helping students, but were being siphoned by corrupt officials. Ruchika explained how her family lacked wealth, making Tocha's school entry even more impressive. Losing confidence after failing to awaken an extra skill, Tocha began skipping class. Day after day, he trained in secret, vowing not to return until he surpassed Suma. Impressed by his determination, Suma admitted he needed to rethink his opinion of Tocha. Ruchika admitted her brother persuaded their father to let her attend the academy. Despite his odd behavior, she believed she was simply making up for what he couldn't handle. Eliza pointed out that aristocrats skipping class put pressure on others, though Tocha seemed hopeless to return. Because nobles are obsessed with honor, Losing face often leads to revenge, she explained darkly. An idea suddenly struck Suma as he compared how commoners and nobles think. Suma dashed off with excitement, declaring he'd found a way to involve more students in class. He called it Nagatacho style, a different approach inspired by a place where rules bend. After sneaking around the academy grounds, he located the group of truant aristocrats. Doubt started surfacing among them as guilt for skipping lessons began to grow. One suggested they could lie to their parents until someone else took the fall. Suma playfully told them to confront Tocha first if they refused to return to class. Leaping in cheerfully, he clarified that he hadn't come to force them back. He hinted they might have missed out on something important due to their absence, revealing the shocker. Suma explained their test scores would be sent to their parents, added that the results would be posted publicly at the school entrance for all to see. Suma explained the test was a vital step to becoming a knight, gaining royal recognition. Even elite students in other classes studied diligently, despite already paying hefty fees. He accused the group of not caring about their parents' expectations or recognition. Some boys began to reconsider, slowly realizing his reasoning made sense. Panic spread as they questioned whether the test results were really going to be sent home. Privately, Suma admitted he had made up everything he said about the tests. Without hesitation, he turned to leave, casually announcing he had class to attend. The boys panicked, suddenly planning to start study sessions and report to Tocha. Desperation grew. None wanted their parents seeing a score of 0 on any test. Suma smiled brightly and agreed to help, suggesting they begin studying immediately. Encouraged, the boys vowed to study hard, aiming to at least pass. One by one, they eagerly agreed to attend Suma's lesson, even on days off. Later they filled the classroom, leaving Suma hopeful as he counted one absent seat. Only Tocha remained outside, still training obsessively to surpass Suma. Fueled by irritation, Tocha shouted his frustration, unaware his efforts were gradually pushing him closer to growth. Marcus stood with pride, convinced that no one in the class could match his strength. He confirmed his superiority during the first martial arts lesson, gripping his wooden sword with confidence. But the duel ended unexpectedly when Son defeated him, leaving Marcus unconscious on the ground. Despite being a noble, Marcus admitted defeat, realizing he couldn't win even after multiple attempts. Since childhood, Tocha, from the Landberg spear-wielding family, had trained tirelessly, his skill as the lancer unmatched. Tocha's natural gift with the spear stunned the adults, likening him to the legendary founder of the Landberg family. Whispers of envy surrounded him. Others believed his talent guaranteed success for him and his mother. While training alone, he learned he'd been accepted into the academy, leaving him overwhelmed with emotion. Everyone praised his dedication. He had trained relentlessly since childhood. Unlike others, Ruchika saw him as he truly was, and supported him. Honestly, Tocha refused to attend the academy if Ruchika couldn't go with him, defying his father's expectations. Believing she might feel lonely, he swore to stay by her side and protect her. But when Ruchika began spending time with another boy, frustration crept into his thoughts. Rage flared as he misinterpreted the boy's friendly offer to train as mockery. Latter. While training alone, he questioned why Ruchika worked so hard, despite her options. While eating alone in the grand hall, Tocha quietly kept to himself, away from distractions. Unexpectedly, a familiar face approached him, breaking the silence with a casual greeting. The visitor began prying into his personal life, bringing up his father and responsibilities. He claimed to offer advice as family, raising suspicion in Tocha's eyes. Shock followed as the guest urged him to sabotage the black class by skipping the test. Tocha questioned the motive behind sabotaging the class, hearing Son Marcus Rex's name as the target. The older student claimed Marcus caused trouble and had no place at the academy. He insisted the task was simple, just don't attend the test. Temptation grew when he offered gold coins as reward for recruiting others to skip too. Mocking, he pointed out the offer matched a commoner's yearly income. Tocha declined the bribe, insisting he couldn't accept money for such a dishonest act. Despite his refusal, the upperclassman warned that taking the test would only lead to failure. As pressure mounted, Tocha found himself reluctantly pulled into their scheme against his will. Later, Suma was questioned about his confrontation with the Emerald class during a study session. Concerned, the girl warned that they might retaliate in the test using every unfair method. Suma laughed off the warning, doubting anyone could cheat in a competition based on average scores. Rit stayed silent, her expression growing colder the more Suma dismissed the concern. Eventually she clarified that while cheating would be risky, they'd likely be cautious and subtle. She explained, the enemy might interfere just enough to win without crossing clear boundaries. Reminded Suma that if Tocha didn't take the test, their class score would suffer. Rit noticed Suma fiddling with a string and asked about it. prompting a cheerful explanation. Her expression darkened as the mood shifted, likely sensing something ominous approaching. Suma then stood before the entire class, presenting a study aid to help them prepare. He introduced it as a method from a place called Joyuku in Japan, confusing everyone. With intensity, Suma demanded non-stop studying every subject, every day, leaving the class in utter dismay. Relief filled the classroom as the intense lesson finally concluded, students bursting with cheer. Tears and laughter mixed as exhaustion set in, but determination held strong with the exam nearing. After pouring every bit of energy into preparation, there was nothing left to do but rest. With the test just one day away, whispers began to spread about a missing classmate. Morning sunlight signaled the beginning exam day had officially arrived, and tension filled the campus. As students prepared for the exam, murmurs grew over someone's absence, just before the test began. Ruchika stepped forward, apologizing for her brother not showing up, her voice filled with guilt. Just then, the classroom door opened. Tocha entered, late but determined, stunning everyone. With his usual scowl, he exchanged sharp words with Suma, masking his relief. Cheers erupted from classmates, happy and surprised that Tocha had come after all. Bursting through the door, Tocha claimed he came on his own terms, brushing off concerns. Others believed he would never try to one-up anyone unfairly, having quietly trained in secret. Though seated for the exam, doubt lingered if he came. It was for the test, not for anyone. Confusion grew as Suma caught a strange expression, questioning what it meant. In another room, officials began lockdown procedures to prevent cheating until the test concluded. Gubi received praise from a teacher for her impressive effort, especially if the commoner ended up expelled. Grinning with pride, she vowed not to stop, feeling empowered by her accomplishments. Suddenly called away from the room, she excused herself, leaving observers curious. Her exit drew quiet scorn. Some believed she acted recklessly, ignoring the group's coordination. Even her allies were uneasy, uncertain about her intentions, despite expecting a solid win. Gubi prepared to interfere with the test while Suma's group realized something was wrong again. The instructors announced the beginning of the first test, instructing all students to pay close attention to the rules. Inside, a large lecture hall, students took their seats as staff explained. The format questions would be read aloud. Strict guidelines were laid out. Students couldn't ask questions, and the proctors revealed they belonged to an external organization. The time limit was 1 hour. A special device would show the remaining time. Failure to follow instructions meant instant disqualification. One student boldly stepped forward, declaring this moment as something unforgettable, hinting at a surprise to come. The staff member revealed their background, admitting the company they worked for used unethical strategies to generate revenue. Their real task was exposed: ensure the black class faced disadvantages during testing and boost scores for emerald class through deception. Suddenly, the bell echoed across the academy grounds, marking the official start of the examination. Without delay, the proctor began reading the first question, which focused on mythology. The topic centered on Tsukuma's teachings about love among humans, setting the tone for a difficult test ahead. A question about seasonal greetings echoed through the hall, catching students off guard as the instructor coughed and watched. Amused by the expected confusion, the proctor silently wondered how many would ask for the question to be repeated. Despite the setup, students began writing without hesitation, their pens moving confidently across the paper. A sudden realization hit the instructor: the students weren't struggling at all. Staring in disbelief, he questioned how the entire class could have understood the question so easily. With calm confidence, Suma demanded the examiner move on, unsettling the man with his steady gaze and composed tone. Although the examiner tried to rush through the questions without repetition, Suma and his classmates remained unfazed. Familiarity with test structures allowed students to still earn marks even if parts were missed during the quick delivery. Suma and his peers relaxed slightly, realizing the questions were predictable and the situation less severe than anticipated. Meanwhile, the test's magic timer ticked down suspiciously, its fading golden block silently marking the time remaining. As the bell rang, the system declared the mythology test was over. Suma realized the illusion of ample time had deceived many. However, he had anticipated this manipulation. The device still showed time remaining, exposing the lie. Students shared their experiences afterward, many feeling confident. Suspicion grew as the proctors rushed away in panic. Suma explained the exam's hidden flaw: limited time for essay responses, despite the illusion of control over pacing too. Counter that, he had warned everyone beforehand: write as fast as possible without waiting for repeats. Suma felt confident in his performance. He had prepped his classmates thoroughly, giving them practice questions to handle the rigged exam. Another student panicked, pointing out that the magic timer hadn't finished the test ended prematurely. His classmates scolded him, reminding him of the previous day's practice session. They had learned the test would be cut short and trained to react fast. They praised Suma's foresight, mentioning how one girl had even encouraged others to push themselves because of his guidance. When asked how he predicted everything so precisely, Suma casually admitted he was a reincarnator, explaining his top entrance score and strategy. After the test ended, calm returned to the academy. Suma noticed one student immediately burying herself in review, already preparing for the next challenge. Relief spread through the classroom as students celebrated finishing the exam. Their tension finally released all at once. Plans quickly shifted toward leisure, with some classmates eager to relax, while others hesitated at the sudden change in mood. Suma interrupted the excitement, reminding everyone that checking answers while the test was still fresh would be more useful. Confusion followed when a familiar classmate went missing, leaving Suma quietly wondering what choice she had made. Suma stepped out into the hallway, relieved to have completed the first major test. His classmates noticed someone had left immediately. Tocha had vanished. Rit approached Suma to walk back with him, but quickly ran off without explanation, leaving him confused and slightly worried. Moments later, Really appeared and pulled him aside urgently, ignoring his confusion and the people around. She revealed important news. Rumors were circulating about a fourth test involving a duel. She had received insider information from a classmate. With tension rising, Really warned Suma that the first years of the black class were targeted to be publicly defeated, prompting Suma to take action. Suma prepared to head toward the duel site, despite not knowing who would challenge them. Really tried to stop him, but he remained determined. She warned that only aristocrats were allowed at the location. Commoners were being forcefully removed. Suma, however, refused to back down. Despite Really's pleas, Suma insisted on going. He couldn't ignore what was happening, even if he wasn't welcome. Frustration filled him. The test had gone well and spirits were high. Now discrimination was casting a shadow over their achievement. At the duel site, upper-class students waited with smug expressions. One stepped forward, mockingly asking if that effort was all Suma had to offer. Tocha was brought to his knees, humiliated before the crowd. His opponent mocked the Landberg family's techniques as unimpressive. Despite his injuries, Tocha gritted his teeth and pushed through the pain, refusing to give in. The attacker taunted him further, speaking of his lineage and expressing annoyance over being related to someone like Tocha. Others in the crowd whispered about the family rivalry. Even as Tocha began to rise, his opponent sneered, challenging him and doubting he had any chance of winning. With a smug tone, the noble declared he could harm commoners without consequence. His words dripped with arrogance as he dared Tocha to fight back. Tocha clenched his fist, furious and torn. He knew that if he retaliated, Suma might face consequences because of his actions. Overwhelmed with rage, he struggled to stay composed as his opponent mocked him for helping commoners, a notion he scoffed at loudly for the crowd to hear. The verbal abuse turned physical. Tocha was struck again, sent crashing to the ground as the noble demanded he respond. As Tocha's bag spilled open, the attackers discovered study notes. They jeered, reminding him he wasn't supposed to attend class. Their scorn deepened as they trampled his hard-earned notes. The effort poured into studying was ridiculed by those who saw it as desperate and pathetic. Tocha recalled how Rukika, without fail, delivered notes to him every day, believing he'd one day join the class and take the tests with them. Seeing those same notes torn and trampled by nobles filled him with anguish. They weren't just pages, they were acts of belief and love. His pain exploded into action. Tocha lunged forward to stop them, only to be struck down mid-charge, crashing to the floor. He was mocked for rising without permission. His name was spat out like an insult. Sneering nobles surrounded him. One reminded Tocha that he had broken a rule and would be punished for daring to stand again. A student stood up against a bully during a duel, questioning the honor of knights who mistreated others. The opponent mocked his anger and forced him to kneel, treating him with open contempt as bystanders laughed at the humiliation. Even while armed, the defeated boy was overpowered by an unarmed rival. His pride as a member of a prestigious house was shattered. Frustration overwhelmed him. Realizing the event would spread through the school, he clenched his teeth in shame. Pushed by humiliation, he trained hard, aiming to challenge Suma again and regain his dignity. Tocha endured a brutal beating as his opponent mocked him and demanded he beg for forgiveness with his friends. His face bloodied, Tocha winced as he was told to crawl away, humiliated and powerless to respond. At that moment, Suma intervened. Pinning the aggressor down, He questioned if such cruelty was fitting for someone who called himself a knight. Suma challenged the attacker to declare his desire for a fair duel openly and in front of everyone. As students gathered, Suma exposed the injustice. If it had been a proper duel, someone would have checked on Tocha's condition. They had gone too far. Suma told Tocha to stop worrying and focus on fighting properly. He promised to show Tocha his own strength and urged him not to hold back. After encouraging words, Suma told Tocha to use his spear technique, though weakened. Tocha picked himself up, acknowledging the support and preparing to fight again. With Suma's help, Tocha stood once more. Despite taunts calling him crippled, he gripped the spear tightly and declared he wasn't afraid. Raising his weapon with determination, Tocha challenged his opponent, asking if he was ready to resume the duel. The enemy smirked and charged forward, confident he'd finish the fight in one blow, eager to end it swiftly. Tocha faced his opponent, determination burning in his eyes. With Suma watching, he steadied his stance and prepared his strike. Using all his remaining strength, he lunged forward and unleashed his special move Pierce with incredible speed and focus. The spear shot forward with immense force. Catching the enemy off guard, he raised his arms too late as the attack closed in. Impact sent the opponent flying across the training ground, witnessed by stunned students and teachers alike. Tocha smiled, breathing heavily. He had finally activated Pierce, but the effort overwhelmed him, and he collapsed from exhaustion. After collapsing, Tocha was declared the winner. His opponent lay unconscious, but some students protested, accusing Suma of bias and demanding the result be overturned. When Suma challenged their sense of justice, upper-class students shamelessly admitted they saw nothing wrong with exploiting the lower ranks. Unfazed, Suma stood tall and declared he would stand for the commoners. He called out the nobles directly, demanding they face him. Addressing everyone present, Suma boldly threatened to beat them all, shocking the gathered crowd into silence. His words were mocked, with students laughing off his challenge, until he activated Lightning Baguto, silencing their scorn with power. Without warning, Suma dashed in and struck one of the upperclassmen, catching him completely off guard. He counted it as the first, warning others not to underestimate him. The second student rushed in with a raised weapon, but Suma evaded and countered swiftly, landing a clean blow. Despite the feint being obvious, the attacker fell for it. Suma exploited the mistake with precision, calling it his second takedown. Observers were shocked he was unarmed, yet moved faster and hit harder than anyone expected from a supposed level 12. Activating Hawkeye, Suma locked onto another target and dropped him with ease. That made 3. Suma caught an opponent's sword mid-attack and struck back. Spectators were stunned by his strength, while others panicked and fled, fearing they'd be next. Several students ran in all directions, overwhelmed by the realization that Suma was far stronger than expected. Suma warned them not to run. Facing the upper-class students, he questioned whether they still planned to exploit his class after everything they'd seen. With a fierce roar, he dared them to fight. His voice echoed, charged with fury and resolve. Terrified by his overwhelming presence, the upperclassmen flinched, visibly shaken and unable to respond. The staff apologized and confirmed that teachers had been informed about the violent events. However, the students could sense hesitation in their response. Miss Realry walked away silently, leaving the students confused. Her expression was unreadable, but something clearly bothered her. Students shouted in frustration, questioning why no one was checking on Tocha, who was gravely injured. Realry's sharp stare showed her disapproval. She realized that someone from a higher-ranking house had ordered others not to intervene. Even her Granberg family status couldn't override it. Determined to act, she ran off on her own, followed by others, despite calls not to worsen the situation. A group of uniformed elite students paused when they saw Realrose approaching. Kneeling politely, Realrose introduced herself as a member of the Granberg house. The students instantly recognized her noble lineage and whispered in awe, despite their awe. One student mocked her, pointing out her failure to enter the prestigious white class. She stood firm, unaffected by their words. She calmly asked for her message to be relayed if she couldn't speak directly. The students reacted in confusion, unsure how to handle her composure. One of them stepped forward, acknowledging her with respect. He apologized for the abrupt interaction and spoke kindly of her father's good reputation. Realrose offered to accompany the students to the duel's location, insisting it was important. Unmoved by their protests, she declared that school issues should take precedence. The Tea Party could wait. This matter demanded urgent attention. Some panicked students feared she was being set up. They claimed it didn't involve them and tried to deflect blame, pointing to the black class. Frustrated, Realrose questioned why students at the academy only cared about their own class, rather than acting as one. A student responded with resolve. They reminded everyone that class distinctions meant nothing. They were all knights training to protect the same kingdom. Real Rose looked toward the silver-haired student and realized his presence wasn't ordinary. Their group arrived at a grim scene. Injured students scattered, while others cowered in fear. The aftermath of the chaos was clear. Shocked, the students tried to grasp the situation. Bodies lay across the ground. Real Rose's companion stepped forward, stunned by the scale of what had unfolded. In silence, Suma stood in the center. Surrounded by fallen opponents, he had emerged as the one who stood victorious. As Suma checked on Tocha, concerned voices called out. Real Rose and the others demanded to know what happened. Suma explained how the black class continued to face unfair treatment. He held the injured Tocha, revealing the extent of their mistreatment. Classmates rushed over to help, regretful they hadn't arrived sooner. They carried Tocha away while others went to get medical assistance. Standing beside Kiru, Suma quietly acknowledged the tension. Both sides seemed to understand each other in silence. The Landberg group arrived, ready to assess the situation. Authority and concern finally replaced chaos. Suma sat in silence as his classmates questioned him about the fight against the aristocrats. Word had already spread, he defeated them all. Shock spread among his peers. Praise came quickly, but so did panic. Rumors suggested Suma wasn't a level 12 student. His secret was crumbling. He defended himself, saying he hadn't injured anyone seriously, but his strength had left opponents nearly crippled in a single blow. Warnings piled up, expulsion, police trouble, even jail time loomed. Suma's confidence wavered, then came the darkest thought: retaliation. His friend warned him they might kill him and make it look like an accident. Suma realized the duel had ended too late to change what happened, and his actions had already affected everyone around him. Gratitude filled the room as students showed their relief, knowing Suma's strength had protected them in a dangerous moment. A quiet determination settled over him. He understood the future would be difficult, yet he refused to feel regret for stepping forward. Elsewhere in the academy, tension lingered as staff and students reacted differently to the growing conflict and rumors. Meanwhile, an instructor considered failing in, but decided it was better not to disturb the students, while emotions were still raw. A teacher entered the room and was asked about the black class. He admitted he had been ordered to ignore them and provide no instruction. Criticism followed. The senior instructor belittled him, claiming he was useless and offering no value to the academy. Without restraint, the superior hurled insults, demanding loyalty to the aristocrats, and questioning the teacher's motivation and dignity. Frustrated, the teacher clenched his fist after the encounter, silently swearing under his breath. Later, shaken by the situation, he reflected on a student's severe but hidden injuries, realizing something was changing in the black class. The teacher insisted on knowing the truth. Though his students warned him to stay uninvolved, he claimed it was his responsibility as their instructor. Suddenly, one of the boys jumped in front of him, arms wide, shouting for him to stop. His concern was clear and urgent. A girl appeared with authority in her voice. She demanded that the teacher leave, offering no room for negotiation. He tried to explain that he had important matters to discuss with Suma. She didn't flinch. Refusing his presence, she shut him down, entirely uninterested in conflict, but unwilling to trust. Students from the black class stood firm, glaring in silence. The teacher finally recognized his failure. He had overlooked their efforts and worth. With his head bowed, he offered an apology. Guilt weighed heavily as he admitted to crushing their hope through his neglect. His words were met with resistance. The students couldn't accept his apology, though one tried to acknowledge his remorse. Suddenly, a fierce strike sent him flying. A student, furious and emotional, shouted at him to stop making excuses. Still on the ground, he heard harsh truth: it was too late. Suma was forced to carry what he had abandoned. Chaos erupted as emotions boiled over. Students shouted, trying to calm each other while restraining their furious classmate. Eliza, anger poured from her. She lashed out, accusing the teacher of pretending to care now after relying solely on Suma since the beginning. Her fury reached its peak. With a raw scream, she demanded he leave, rejecting his presence and blaming him for their pain and burdens. Defeated and overwhelmed, the teacher turned away. Regret gnawed at him as he whispered curses at his own helplessness. Meanwhile, far from the academy, a noble girl named Real Rose arrived, her presence hinting at a shift yet to come. A girl smiled politely as she apologized for the sudden invitation. Her guest responded with calm assurance, saying it was no problem. Their conversation turned to family. A man complimented Real Rose's beauty and suggested her father must be proud, which she confirmed with quiet confidence. Then, the student hosting her posed a question. She paused, reflecting, and explained her grandfather was strict but affectionate. They discussed political alignments. Many aristocrats declined support. Half joined them, but the rest, unmoved even by bribes, could turn into powerful rivals. Real Rose challenged the logic. If their rivals disliked her, then why would they back Suma? Suspicion about deeper motivations began to grow. With a small smile, Real Rose acknowledged the sharp observation from her guest. Her tone turned somber. Rivals didn't fear her at all. They believed they could surpass her and take her place without resistance. The discussion shifted towards Suma. If he were removed, those same rivals could claim the top position and opportunity they likely hoped for all along. Despite all of this, she expressed her true motive. Helping Suma was not strategy, it was her personal wish, clear and heartfelt. To act on that wish, she extended her hand and asked for assistance. Her resolve was firm, and her eyes held determination. 2 days had passed since the confrontation. Suma laid back in his room, quietly reflecting as the world outside remained tense. He greeted his classmates with a smile, trying to keep the atmosphere light. Still, the unease in their interactions showed things hadn't returned to normal. Despite wanting to help, Suma was told to stay inside. Outside, the danger remained. Some even feared he could be attacked. A bandaged classmate knocked on his door. Suma welcomed him, surprised he was already walking after the recent injuries. They briefly discussed Ruchika's return to the girls' dorm. Concern lingered, but Suma stayed composed, unsure of what lay ahead next. Suma sat across from his bandaged classmate, surprised by an unexpected apology. The boy, eyes downcast, confessed with sincere regret. He brought up the costly potion Suma had given him after the duel. Despite its price, he acknowledged how much it had helped him heal, shrugged it off, calling it an investment. He told his friend to pay him back someday, lightening the mood. Tension returned when another student burst in, shouting about the dorm head celebrating a cruel expulsion. Rumors about Suma's fate stirred again. Still, conversation turned oddly casual. They teased Suma for looking lonely, hinting he found comfort in unexpected company. Plans to attend the announcement stirred tension. Despite concerns, he insisted on going, thinking his friends were being overly cautious. Frustration flared. Rit snapped, claiming he didn't understand the gravity of his situation or the risk he was walking into. Efforts to leave were blocked. Voices shouted over one another, offering to check the results on his behalf if he stayed inside. Worry turned to desperation. He feared coming last in the rankings could lead to expulsion, pushing him to defy everyone's warnings. Reluctantly, Rit agreed. A condition was attached, but relief filled the room. With tension easing, a faint smile returned to his face. A plan was already prepared. A disguise was handed over. Surprise filled the room as the cloth revealed its hidden purpose. Suma was cornered into trying something drastic. A classmate handed him a disguise and insisted it was the only option. He hesitated, but pulled the hood over his head, uncertain about how convincing he looked. Still, he stepped outside. The moment he entered the dorm, boys swarmed around him, mistaking him for a girl. The plan oddly succeeded. Another classmate warned him his masculine walk might blow the cover. Suma's posture stiffened. With a red face and nerves on edge, Suma pressed on. The disguise worked, but just barely. The group arrived at the Academy Plaza, where a crowd had gathered in anticipation. Suma nervously trailed behind, his heart pounding. An official began announcing test results, starting with class rankings, followed by individual scores. Suma's anxiety visibly spiked. Memories of past failures rushed back. He was overwhelmed with tension, even more than facing debt collectors. A familiar voice echoed across the courtyard, calling for Son Marcus Rec. Heads turned toward the source. Startled, Suma instinctively responded. He stepped forward hesitantly, pulling attention directly to himself, while still cloaked in disguise. Togen asked Suma to follow him, stating someone requested his presence. Suma hesitated, trying to explain his strange situation, panicked about missing the results. Suma resisted, but Togen insisted. Grades would remain posted for a week, he reasoned. Tension mounted as Togen revealed the school executives had summoned Suma. A wave of dread immediately overcame him. They climbed the stairs in silence. Togen knocked firmly, announcing their arrival outside the grand meeting room. Inside, a few high-ranking officials turned to face them. Suma stood still, facing the authority figures with anxious curiosity. Afro-headed headmaster gave a calm welcome, nodding for Togen to stay behind. Shock-widened eyes at the unusual appearance before him. Directed to a seat, he moved cautiously, gaze shifting between the unfamiliar man and the commanding presence nearby. Blame wasn't denied. Admission came with an explanation. Others had targeted Tocha together, and that led to the incident. Tension spiked under a harsh demand. Muscles stiffened, mind racing for the right words while sweat trickled down. Foul play was denied. It was a reaction, not an attack, and only after being outnumbered, hands raised in defense. He claimed his actions were just a teaching method, just a few harmless punches. Across the room, skeptical stares answered him. A sharp retort followed. Violence, especially from a commoner, crossed a line. Even misbehaving dogs faced consequences. That metaphor didn't land well. One official questioned if he had just insulted noble children. Panic flickered as he tried to explain. Words cut deeper, now called a security threat, labeled unremorseful. His presence was deemed dangerous to school harmony. Without hesitation, the verdict came: expulsion. A voice protested, but the room stood firm. Gino Brand stepped forward, calling out the headmaster's harshness. Responsibility, he claimed, should fall on him as their teacher, not the student. Rather than accepting that plea, the official coldly offered to expel them both. No sympathy showed in his tone. Outrage sparked around the room. Others objected as the student sat stunned. Realization hit: it wasn't just punishment, it was political. One calm voice finally broke through. A composed figure politely disagreed, commanding everyone's attention. That interruption brought clarity. The student deserved his place, and the teacher's actions had no bearing on the matter. Calmly seated, the noble stated his firm stance. Once a decision was made, it wasn't easily reversed. Surprisingly, the student had been recommended by not only his house but others, including Granberg, an aristocratic seal of approval. Eyes widened in disbelief. Confusion turned to realization. Really, from Granberg, had likely backed him in secret. Opposition came from several noble houses. Two were identified as Forberg and Landberg. Others remained unnamed. A wave of dread settled in. Surrounded by disapproval, the student felt completely isolated. 14 against him, maybe more. Questions turned toward the nobles. Weren't these complaints from families whose children had been defeated by him? No one disputed the fairness of the fights. Reason prevailed. If foul play had occurred, those families would have demanded a rematch. Silence confirmed their defeat had been fair and square. Still, concerns lingered. A compromise surfaced. Perhaps a condition could resolve the tension. Heads nodded cautiously. One rule was proposed: stay number one throughout his school life. Drop even to second, and he's out. A bead of sweat rolled down his cheek. This wasn't mercy. It was pressure disguised as a chance. Sitting in silence, Suma wrestled with the weight of the condition. First place forever. He couldn't help but imagine slipping, especially to someone like Kirua. A sudden realization hit. Did that mean he had ranked first in the recent tests? Eyes widened with surprise. Concern shifted. What about his class? Did their ranking improve too? Urgency replaced doubt as he turned toward the officials. They found it amusing. Rather than thinking of himself, Suma cared more for his classmates' proof of his gamble on them. The results were handed over. Suma received them cautiously, unaware they were about to vanish in a strange magical glow. Burning document startled Suma. That spell wasn't just flashy, it came directly from the headmaster. Eyes widened at the realization. Before questions could pour out, he was politely dismissed. Adults had matters to discuss, and Suma was told to check the results. Nervous laughter followed. He tried to explain away the disguised misunderstanding, but the noble shrugged it off as typical of youth today. A hand lifted hesitantly. Suma asked if he could propose conditions of his own in return. Without waiting, he dashed out, arms high, energy returning in full stride. Suma changed out of his disguise, hoping to avoid further misunderstandings. Still, thoughts lingered about the mysterious noble. Who exactly was that man? He shook off the curiosity. Best not to get tangled in complicated politics. Trouble always found him easily anyway. Friends rushed over with concern, bombarding him with questions about expulsion and the meeting. Hands raised, Suma reassured them quickly. No expulsion. Everything was fine for now. Relief spread across their faces. Without wasting a second, they grabbed him and pulled him toward the results board. Suma rushed toward the board, anxious to confirm the results. His classmates trailed behind, eager but uncertain about what they'd find. Reality struck hard. Despite his individual success, Black class ranked last overall. His expression froze in disbelief at the outcome. Shock gripped Suma as he caught sight of the rankings. His class was dead last. Panic bubbled as he struggled to process the result. In the midst of growing tension, he mistakenly stared at the senior year rankings, his confusion only adding to his anxiety. With trembling hands, he finally shifted his eyes to the correct list, silently begging not to see his class at the bottom. To his surprise, the chart revealed a better outcome. His class stood far above what he feared. Relief crashed over him as he realized the black class secured second place, leaving Suma speechless and teary-eyed. Cheers erupted as Suma's classmates surrounded him, showering praise for their surprising success. Several teammates laughed while recounting the tense duel, joking that his risk of disqualification wouldn't have changed how proud they were. In a playful moment, Suma received a friendly jab, causing him to wince while others teased him with grins. Excitement still buzzing, a friend nudged him toward the next board this time. The individual rankings had been posted too. Scanning the results, he froze. Rukika, to his disbelief, had made it to the top 5, leaving him stunned once again. Rukika proudly celebrated her third-place rank, drawing Suma's attention to another classmate's unexpected inclusion. Their gaze landed on Tocha, who had landed a discouraging 285th out of 312. Teasing followed. Though Suma tried to keep it light, the rest of the group began checking their results, revealing rankings that ranged from modest to slightly disappointing, sparking mixed reactions. Despite her low position, one student blamed herself. Suma, however, praised her determination and steady rise from the bottom. Even as she sulked, he reminded her that many in their class made it into the top tiers, a rare group achievement. Miss Gooby stormed into the scene, accusing the black class of suspicious conduct for their sudden rise in ranking. Without hesitation, Suma fired back, exposing her hypocrisy. She had attempted to cheat during the exams she claimed were tampered with. Addressing the gathered students and faculty, Suma insisted their success was earned and vowed to aim for first place next time. Facing her directly, he demanded she resign from her role, challenging her integrity as an educator. Feigning authority, Gooby twisted the situation, calling for Suma's expulsion based on fabricated claims of misconduct during a duel. Suma confronted Miss Gooby, asking if she intended to break her promise, only to receive evasive denial. Unexpectedly, an authoritative figure announced Gooby's removal from the Emerald class, stunning her and the onlookers. Another teacher stepped forward, revealing the truth behind a bet Gooby had made, one that would have expelled Suma had he lost. Anger erupted as a noble student, offended by the suggestion of equality, lashed out, rejecting the idea of betting with a commoner. Despite his outburst, he soon echoed the Granberg family's founding principles: equality, respect, and accountability for one's words. The noble student condemned Gooby, pointing out her failure to honor the promise and her disrespect toward Suma. With quiet authority, he warned that even the Duke was watching, tightening pressure on the disgraced teacher. Unable to maintain her composure, Gooby collapsed, while students around them cheered in joy, having seen justice prevail. Suma turned his gaze toward a smiling girl, now recognized by others as the student once mistreated by Gooby. Acknowledging Suma's strength, the noble admitted his own effort fell short, expressing sincere admiration for the one he once underestimated. Humbly complimented the white class, but his rival returned the praise, smiling at Suma's growing strength. Jokingly, Suma predicted he'd soon fall behind, prompting a playful warning that it might mean his expulsion. Reassurance followed as Suma confirmed the conditions were understood and approved, easing any lingering concern. Flashback revealed Suma had cleverly added a clause: as long as he remained top in either combat or written tests, he couldn't be expelled even if surpassed. Observers were baffled how someone ranked level 12 could pull that off, but Suma smirked, confident in his hidden power. Suma bowed deeply to Kiru, expressing heartfelt gratitude for stepping in during a critical moment. With emotion in his voice, Suma confessed that in his previous life, no one ever stood by him when he needed help. Kiru, flustered yet sincere, reminded Suma they were friends, and helping each other was only natural. He then added, with a teasing grin, that Suma couldn't be his rival if he gave up too soon. Amid the laughter and chatter, Suma turned to thank Really, too unaware that whispers of rivalry were already stirring the crowd. A cheerful explanation followed: he had been chasing a cat with Really, not causing trouble. With exams settled and the dual issue resolved, relief filled his heart. Just as he turned to rejoin his group, a dark aura from his classmates warned him of incoming complaints. They burst into uproar, demanding answers about his reckless connections with nobles and challenging elite rivals, worried for his safety and sanity. Shouts turned into motivation as everyone prepared to return to their dormitory, energy reignited. Together, they walked off in high spirits, unity strengthening within the black class. Peace returned as the group strolled back through the academy grounds, basking in the calm after recent chaos. Morning training began quietly under the trees, light stretched across the grass as preparations took shape. With excitement, a shirtless warrior shouted for attention, eager to show off his form during his rare appearance at practice. Fatigue crept in during the session. Someone leaned against a tree, barely holding up, drawing a concerned look from a teammate. Panic rose as Tocha fled with embarrassment. A desperate plea followed, begging him not to tell anyone what just happened. Training heated up with misunderstandings, when a bold request to check his level caused mild chaos. Clarifications followed in a rush. Awkward tension spread. when someone questioned Swen's presence. Defensive words flew as Rit's request to keep things private resurfaced. Revealing a secret, Suma warned Tocha to stay quiet, while preparing to activate his unique skill that could read detailed stats. A glowing panel appeared, showcasing Suin's swordsmanship at an impressive 191.36, leaving everyone speechless. Praise poured in as Suma confirmed Suin had gained a powerful extra skill, shocking the group with his rapid growth from level 67. Tears welled up as Suin, with quiet pride, affirmed he could still wield his sword and keep pushing forward. Support came swiftly, hands clapped his back as others praised his dedication and consistency in training. While Kiru stood out in written tests, thoughts turned to rivals in martial arts, hinting at a growing competitive drive. Tocha noticed something off, asking what was wrong. A silent pause filled the air. Smiling with resolve, he brushed off the concern. New goals had formed beginning that day. He would focus on mastering skills beyond swordsmanship, training wrapped up with light spirits. Laughter spread as new goals formed, and bonds between them strengthened through shared effort. After the exams concluded, the students gathered again. One of them urged Suma and his group to focus on the upcoming events, stressing preparation for the next challenge. Curious, Suma asked about the details of the next test. When told it involved a tournament, he seemed puzzled. The explanation followed: students would compete in teams of 4 against other classes. This time, group strategy would be more important than individual strength. Realizing the gap in skills, one student decided their class must first improve everyone's martial arts ability. Eager, Suma suggested using his unique skill, trial and error, to analyze everyone's levels and start training. Concerns rose as Suma proposed using his ability. Rit warned him against it, fearing others would discover how powerful it truly was. She emphasized the consequences, including restrictions on his freedom if word got out. Suma brushed it off, teasing her for overreacting. Pressed further, Suma shifted the responsibility to Rit, insisting she figure out another way if his method was off limits. Rit's imagination spiraled with extreme scenarios. Angered, Rit exploded with dark energy, demanding to punish them. Both boys instantly apologized. Eventually, Suma dismissed the tension, suggesting they revisit the topic later. During a class assembly, a teacher hesitated before addressing the students. He admitted he had something to say regarding past actions. With sincerity, he apologized and expressed a desire to support the black class. His goal wasn't just to teach but to help Marcus and others, requesting the class's approval. One student calmly responded, saying they no longer viewed him negatively. The shift in opinion, she explained, came from what they'd heard through Suma's words and actions. Ultimately, the class accepted him. If Suma trusted the teacher, then so did the rest. Without hesitation, nearly every student raised their hand in support, catching the teacher off guard with their overwhelming response. Shocked by the show of hands, he struggled to find words, still unsure if it was genuine or a misunderstanding. Suma stepped in, trying to explain the situation. A misunderstanding had occurred, and while it looked like rejection, it was far from that. However, a different issue surfaced, just days earlier, at the boys' dorm. Something unusual happened during breakfast. The entire menu consisted only of vegetable sandwiches, radish, lettuce, and red lettuce, nothing else. Students were bewildered by the entire meal being vegetables, with soups and pasta lacking substance. Some questioned if they were being treated like insects. Frustrated and hungry, they demanded to know why no meat was being served. The kitchen staff nervously admitted there would be none for a while. Tempers rose. One student erupted and lashed out, prompting Suma to strike him with a punishing blow. Suspicion fell on Marcus. Accusations flew, claiming he misused the meat funds. However, the truth surfaced: their meat supplier had abruptly ended the contract without explanation. The sudden loss of their meat supplier left the kitchen helpless. With no backup ready, they couldn't secure a replacement in time. Tension eased when an apology was offered. One student, once furious, forgave quickly, prompting others to admire his kindness. Yet questions remained. Suma wondered why the supplier cut ties with the school. The loss seemed financially illogical. An answer surfaced: the shift in class rankings. Someone had climbed to second place, stirring unrest. Suspicion grew that aristocrats pressured the supplier, a backlash against the success of poorer students. Tocha burst in angrily, confused why the girls' dorm hadn't been affected. It was explained their smaller population required less meat. The teacher admitted helplessness, calling the situation dire. Still, he seemed unsure what he could do to help. Though Suma tried to brush it off, the teacher blamed himself for doing nothing, calling it a failure on his part. Tocha didn't hold back. They weren't expecting solutions, just honesty. His bluntness left the teacher flustered. Walking away, they shifted focus, back to what mattered: finding out what was. For lunch, While walking the hall, Suma and Tocha encountered a group in blue uniform students from the prestigious blue class. One of them stepped forward, leaning close to Suma, warning him not to forget who he was dealing with. The moment passed with the blue class student walking off, leaving Suma rattled and unsure if a fight had been initiated. Tocha, ever bold, criticized the encounter, but Suma reminded him how quickly he'd folded in the past. Neither had the appetite for trouble now, so they changed course, heading toward a quieter place to eat. At the local shop, only carrots were available. Despite the limited options, they were surprisingly tasty, prompting questions about their source. The shopkeeper explained he got them from the Sosrazan region, located north beyond the southern capital and deep past a forest. While snacking on carrots, new intel came in. A lead involving documents and transport hinted at a deeper scheme. Evidence confirmed suspicions powerful figures had pressured meat suppliers to cut ties with Black Class, rather than outright attacks. Rivals preferred slow sabotage, eroding their competition piece by piece. Reading over the documents, both students realized the situation was far from over. The next wave of challenges had already begun to form. Despite that, Realrose remained calm. While many at school opposed Suma, she showed no concern. Acknowledging the severity, she admitted the issue could spread and impact more than just Suma. It threatened numerous students. Involvement, however, might prove risky. Caution was advised as acting too boldly could backfire on them all. Confidence settled in. Backed by her education and resolve, she believed she could protect herself from what came next. A new plan began forming. Rather than act immediately, one of the students tasked another to uncover critical information first. Confidence in Suma's initiative ran high. If nothing else, he'd likely make the first move, forcing others to react quickly before fully understanding the consequences. 5 days passed. During lunch, Suma gathered attention from everyone in the dining hall, calling for silence. Without hesitation, he addressed the ongoing problem, the meat shortage. All students listened as he outlined his solution. Rather than wait, he suggested hunting for meat themselves, causing instant shock and resistance. During the holiday break, Suma explained how he had managed to catch meat on his own before. Excited by the idea, the other students rallied behind him, eager to try it themselves. He laid out the plan: everyone would bring weapons and head into the forest together to hunt beasts for food. With a confident plan, Suma suggested venturing into the forest to gather meat, earn some money, or possibly collect magic items. His proposal caught everyone's attention. Concerned, one student pointed out that while the outer forest had harmless animals, it was equally attractive to dangerous creatures. Suddenly, tension rose as they imagined brutal monsters: boars, wolves, goblins, and orcs lurking within. Facing such threats, the students realized how unprepared they were. To reassure them, Suma revealed he'd earned his money hunting those very beasts during his time in the countryside. Encouraged by his calm confidence, the group agreed to join. Even the most doubtful felt ready to try. A sudden outburst from a girl left Suma confused. Without explaining, she stormed off, saying she no longer cared. Another student teased Suma, calling the girl his wife. Embarrassed, he denied it, and clarified his preferences, brushing off the comment. Raising his voice with determination, Suma restated the plan: hunt for meat while collecting magic materials to gain double rewards. Soon after, the group gathered at the school gate, fully equipped and ready for their forest mission under Suma's lead. Arriving early, some argued over attendance, while others joked about their lack of popularity and swung their swords in boredom. Before setting out, Suma clarified that horses weren't an option due to prep time. The group debated how they'd travel the 10 kilometers ahead. Rather than rely on animals, Suma declared they would run. Some hesitated at the distance, while others doubted their stamina. Confusion rose as they began jogging. Questions about gear and objectives were drowned out by Suma's cheerful pace and teasing remarks. Once inside the forest, Suma efficiently used a wire hook to bring down a bird perched in a tree. Pleased with the catch, he imagined enjoying roasted bird for dinner. Already satisfied with the day's results, eager to continue, Suma urged the group to move and catch more prey. Just then, others arrived and questioned how long he planned to hunt solo. Proudly, Suma revealed his haul: about 20 birds, leaving everyone shocked at his efficiency, while he remained cheerful and nonchalant. After resting, the group decided to resume hunting. Instead of returning to the dorms, their spirits renewed despite the exhaustion from the long run. As they entered deeper woods, Suma taught them to locate birds by sound, while others admitted their lack of skills. Realizing birds weren't ideal targets, they were advised to shift focus toward four-legged creatures like deer and boars. Suma began the briefing with a warning: underestimating animals could be fatal. His unusual opening left his teammates puzzled. He outlined the second-tip team attacks must be synchronized to avoid friendly fire while he would assist from cover. Continuing his plan, Suma advised the one nearest to the prey to use a special skill to finish the target while others remained hidden. He then pointed out a narrow trail between bushes, suggesting it as the ambush point and promised to find a target. Despite the risks of wild boars charging unpredictably, Suma reassured himself and trusted the setup would work out fine. While scanning the area, Suma noted the vastness of the forest, puzzled that nothing was in sight despite its size. Soon he spotted deer droppings on the path, clear evidence that a target had passed through recently. Excited by the trail, Suma caught sight of a deer and quickly readied his gear to capture it before it escaped. To execute their plan, the team decided Suin, closest to the prey, should move into position along the trail. Both Suin and Tocha advanced cautiously through the tall grass, synchronizing their steps to prepare for the takedown. Sudden rustling on the trail caught everyone's attention. As leaves shifted underfoot, the group realized they had startled something nearby. Suin prepared his weapon, prompting confusion from Tocha. He tried to explain, asking Suin to listen closely before acting, rather than address the concern. Suin boasted about his confidence and brushed off the others' reactions, calling himself a cool guy. The two continued arguing over weapon effectiveness. Tocha preferred precision and range, while Suin insisted swords were more versatile. Frustration peaked as Tocha demanded Suin stop laughing, while Suin exploded in anger. Shouting in a full emotional outburst, Suin claimed he could defeat enemies with a single strike, while Tocha insisted their debate was about weapon strengths, not pride. Their argument escalated into a shouting match, each claiming to be stronger. Suma burst in, demanding to know why they were fighting. Just as tensions peaked, both paused when they sensed something approaching, eyes shifting toward the sound. A deer suddenly burst through the brush, forcing them to drop the argument and ready their weapons instinctively. Without hesitation, the two executed a combined attack. Tocha pierced, while Suin slashed, bringing their teamwork into action at last. While Suma kept watch, a sudden charge from a boar ended with it collapsing nearby, fatally wounded from the prior clash. Turning around, Suma was met by a gruesome sight. Tocha and Suin drenched in blood, their expressions half shocked, half proud. Trying to make sense of it, the two protested. Suma casually pointed out it was obviously from the animal they decapitated. After scolding them for losing focus, Suma offered a light-hearted comparison, recalling his own messy first kill. Deciding next steps, Suma suggested washing the carcass in a nearby river, while Suin quietly wished to go home. Suma explained the next steps: lower the deer's temperature in the river, and remove its blood to slow decomposition and preserve flavor. Suin, still dripping with blood, tried sneaking up on Suma for a prank, but Tocha wasn't fooled and kept his distance. Just as Suma turned, a strange noise caught Suin's attention. He froze, realizing something was lurking behind the trees. From the bushes emerged a towering bear, snarling aggressively and staring them down with savage intent. Recognizing its red elbow fur, Suma identified it as a terrifying beast known for unmatched power and agility. The group stood frozen in fear as Suma identified the creature a red-armed bear, a predator known for eating humans. In the capital of Sosloren, located in the Krattenberg Kingdom, adventurers gathered at the guild as news spread of a terrifying beast, the red elbow bear, emerging from the southern forest. Guild members reacted with alarm as the guildmaster confirmed the threat. The bear, known for devouring many, had returned and retained a memory for human flesh. Despite the danger, the military refused to act. High-class Emerald Knights prioritized other tasks, choosing not to allocate manpower to forest matters. This decision sparked outrage, especially with nearby towns like Karo and Himura at risk. Tension grew until the guild master declared action was necessary, vowing to confront the threat. Multiple adventurer parties, including Red Iron Whirlwind, pledged to accept the urgent quest to subdue the Red Arm Bear. The guild master warned all low-ranked parties to stay away, emphasizing the mission's high danger level and urging only intermediate or higher groups to proceed in pairs. Elsewhere, 3 youths encountered the bear firsthand. Cornered and terrified, they faced its ferocious glare and sharp fangs. With panic setting in, the trio fled as the monstrous bear gave chase through the dense forest. Juan slipped and fell, prompting the boy in black to grab his weapon, preparing to counter the beast. As the red arm bear pursued them relentlessly, Suma noticed it targeting only one of his teammates. Its hide was so tough that even bullets couldn't pierce it. Suma paused, wrestling with doubt. The creature's sudden appearance and durability stunned him, yet he knew hesitation wouldn't help. Pushing aside fear, he realized that if he ran, both Tocha and Suen would perish. Determination replaced panic. Shouting out his skill's shock absorber, Hawkeye, and Lightning Bagudo Suma activated his abilities in one surge. Charging in, he confronted the beast head-on, prepared to strike. With full force and resolve, Suma unleashed his skill. Zero slash, aiming directly at the massive beast's body, carving into it with a high-speed blow. Despite the impact, the bear remained standing. Bloodied but enraged, it struggled to rise, growling with its last strength. Just as the bear lunged again, Tocha and Suin struck simultaneously. One slashed, the other pierced, catching the beast off guard and forcing it back. Finally, the red arm bear collapsed. The trio stood still, watching to confirm it had stopped moving. As relief settled in, exhaustion overtook them. All three dropped their guard, overwhelmed that they survived the impossible. After the battle, Suin asked about Suma's mysterious ability. Before he could answer, Suma suddenly collapsed face first into the ground. Panic spread among the group. Tocha and Suin assumed the worst, seeing blood on him and fearing he had died from the intense fight. As they called out in desperation, Suma stirred, revealing he was just exhausted. The level 300 skill he used had drained his energy completely. Back at the gate, a guard worried the three hadn't returned, and considered reporting it before closing up. Finally, Suma and his friends arrived, leaving the relieved guards speechless. Suma, Tocha, and Suin returned to the academy exhausted, carrying the slain bear's remains. Onlookers were stunned by their battered appearance. When questioned by the gatekeeper, Suma explained they weren't hurt, just tired. He asked for a cart, struggling under the weight of the beast. The guard panicked upon realizing they'd fought a bear. Suma admitted to landing the finishing blow, causing even more disbelief. Dismissing their story, the guard insisted first years couldn't possibly defeat such a monster and rushed to raise an alarm. Frustrated but drained, the trio dragged the carcass toward the dorm, baffled by the guard's refusal to believe them. As Suma and his friends entered campus with the bear carcass, students turned to stare, whispering in shock and amusement. Nearby, a group of elite students mocked them. One laughed, claiming they hunted just for meat due to lacking supplies. More snide remarks followed. Others assumed the group couldn't afford the school restaurant, and even joked that they ate food meant for animals. Suma held back his anger. Tocha reminded him those students were from powerful families, it wasn't worth starting trouble. The leader of the elite group sneered, comparing their smell to livestock and walking away with disdain. As the group walked off, one of the elite students smirked, brushing off the incident and boasting about an upcoming date with senior girls. Tocha explained that the arrogant boy was Matthew, a noble from the powerful house of Hannaberg, shocking Suma and Suin. They joked about how polished he looked while also venting their frustration. Tocha, half laughing, confessed he seriously wanted to punch him. Despite the tension, Suma calmed him down, teasing Tocha for being insecure and suggesting they just bring the meat back. With spirits lifting again, they joked about dinner, their teamwork, solidifying even amid the insults. Other students gathered around, marveling at the red arm bear meat the trio brought. Fresh from the bath and feeling refreshed, Suma and his friends eagerly headed to the dining hall, thrilled they'd finally get to enjoy their reward. To their horror, the scene inside was chaos. Students were brawling over meat, dishes flying in a full-blown frenzy. Suma tried to calm things down, but got caught in the madness. He managed to taste a bite, only to realize it was absolutely delicious. As the dust settled, Suma was left with only a single slice. Confused apologies followed, but Tocha stepped up, faced with the guilt of overeating. The students apologized to Tocha. He didn't demand money, only asked if they enjoyed the meat. Tocha pointed out that, with classes resuming, they wouldn't be able to hunt again soon. The meat they had would need to last an entire week, but half was already gone. Seeing the problem, he proposed they go hunting again, using the last day of their break wisely. As soon as he asked who would join, a wave of hands shot up. Everyone wanted in. Suma agreed, and Tocha warned them all to come well prepared. It would be dangerous. He considered resting the next day, but Tocha's strict training reminded him of the effort everyone would face. Shifting focus, Suma began thinking of ways to improve their hunting strategy to increase efficiency for the upcoming trip. Walking down the corridor, Suma stretched with ease, showing no fear about the mission ahead. Behind him, his classmate voiced concern about the plan's safety. Memories of the red arm bear surfaced, a rare and formidable beast, making him wish more manageable creatures had appeared instead. Amid lively chatter, students debated weapon choices. Suma acknowledged the risks, but knew he needed to address the class. Determined, he stated his belief withholding his power would benefit no one beneath the trees. He unveiled a strange object, the hider's secret. While exploring the forest, Suma discovered a valuable mushroom known as the hider's secret, estimating its worth at a gold coin each elsewhere. Exhausted students lay sprawled across the grass, drained from the mission. Approaching the group, Suma found confusion and mild resentment. His weight estimates had clearly misled them. Before venturing deeper, he cheerfully proposed a physical examination, catching his classmate off guard. Turning to Orbit, he singled him out to begin, leaving everyone puzzled. Suma unexpectedly asked Orbit to remove his clothes, insisting it was just a health check before training. The request caused an uproar, with classmates panicking and misunderstanding his intent entirely. Clarifying his plan, a teammate realized Suma aimed to analyze their physical condition and combat styles for personalized training. He assured everyone they didn't need to undress, only to trust his advice. Despite some resistance, curiosity began to outweigh hesitation. Amazingly, he accurately assessed Orbit's skill set, revealing talents the boy hadn't shared, leaving him and others completely stunned. Suma evaluated each student's potential, pointing out missed opportunities with weapons and encouraging new skill growth. His insights surprised everyone. Meanwhile, others took the process seriously, using shields and strategy to test each other behind cover, all part of Rito's clever physical examination plan. He reflected on his goal to match everyone's strengths with their aspirations and unlock hidden abilities. With evaluations complete, he announced the next phase team formation. Each group would include 4 members and 1 ranged fighter, with 2 hours to complete their single, undisclosed task. Suma gave the teams one clear objective: return with beast meat, whether bird or fox. Jokingly, he added that fox tasted bad, sparking chatter among the students. With a smile, he signaled the start of the task, watching as the groups headed into the forest. Excited voices filled the air as students charged ahead. Behind them, Suma quietly wondered how many would succeed. While he pondered, Orbit noticed how little faith Suma seemed to have in their abilities. Elsewhere, one group boldly declared they could hunt 3 beasts, aiming to impress. Matched with 3 nobles, Orbit felt overwhelmed as a commoner, worried about fitting in. He struggled to speak formally, but the group encouraged him to relax and treat them as equals. Despite their noble status, they smiled warmly, though Orbit still couldn't grasp their humor. Discussion turned to weapons. Each shared their choice confidently. Orbit mentioned using a bow, quietly anxious about how it compared. Suddenly, a fox appeared. Unsure whether to act, the group debated capturing it, despite knowing its meat was unpopular. Matched with 3 nobles, Orbit felt overwhelmed as a commoner, worried about fitting in. He struggled to speak formally, but the group encouraged him to relax and treat them as equals. Despite their noble status, they smiled warmly, though Orbit still couldn't grasp their humor. Discussion turned to weapons. Each shared their choice confidently. Orbit mentioned using a bow, quietly anxious about how it compared. Suddenly, a fox appeared. Unsure whether to act, the group debated capturing it, despite knowing its meat was unpopular. Orbit panicked. None of his classmates realized why they failed. They didn't even see it as failure. Doubt clouded his thoughts. While Suma laughed confidently nearby, already convinced the others wouldn't succeed, reflecting on his own experience. He recalled it took him a full month to bring down a bird. 1 or 2 today would be generous. The goal wasn't success, but awakening, showing them their limits through a test run in the wild. Still, hope remained. With motivation rising, the team vowed to hunt hard for the entire class. Accusations flew. He had planned to use everyone as porters all along. Still, Suma proudly explained his deeper goals: skill growth, teamwork, and strength awareness. Disbelief flashed across Rito's face, impressed yet annoyed by the clever manipulation. Praise from Zubin only inflated Suma's ego. Frustrated, Rito urged them to move on, refusing to feed his arrogance. 2 hours passed. As they regrouped under the trees, the time for results had arrived. A massive haul of deer and birds hung proudly. Clearly, their team had done the heavy lifting. No results came from the rest of the class, leaving them stunned in embarrassment. Suma didn't hold back, calling it out bluntly. Next week's hunt was already scheduled. From now on, Suma would personally oversee everyone's training. Just then, the last team returned. Orbit and his group carried a single captured bird, their expressions anxious. To their surprise, Suma praised the result. Expectations had been low, yet they managed something. Celebration didn't last. The others quickly joked it had to be Orbit's doing, while mock insults flew all around. Orbit nervously tried to share credit, but curiosity shifted toward a new face, an unfamiliar adventurer standing among them. Smiling warmly, the man introduced himself as San Marcus Rec and asked if they were all students. Misunderstanding cleared, he relaxed. After learning they weren't nobles, his group belonged to the Saucerosen Adventurer Guild. Raising a small tag, he presented proof of his affiliation: mountain boots, a known guild identifier. Questions followed. With formalities out of the way, San Marcus revealed his intent. He had a request concerning the forest they were training in. News of the forest's lockdown stunned the students. Panic spread quickly. They feared losing access to their essential hunting ground. News of the forest being sealed spreads, triggering panic among students worried about losing their meat supply. A senior student confirms the situation is serious, and suspicion arises that a disaster class monster may be involved. The group learns the threat is a red arm bear, an apex predator known as the Reaper of the Forest. Its ability to traverse mountains in a single night raises alarm. Concern grows as they question whether multiple bears are involved, but the answer suggests only one rogue bear. With a calm smile, one student reveals the danger has already been eliminated. Realizing the forest's proximity to the royal capital, one student assumes the knights must have handled the beast. Before the truth slips out, Tacho is stopped mid-sentence. His friend insists they shouldn't reveal who really defeated it. They quietly agree to hide their strength, knowing exposure would make rival classes more cautious. Pretending to be weak in future interclass battles seems far more entertaining to the leader of the group. From that moment forward, everyone understood how serious he could be behind that usual smile. To assist with formalities, the students volunteer to carry the deer and secretly hand over the red arm bear's pelt as proof of subjugation. Relieved, Suma celebrates their food supply being safe. Though he is surprised to hear the girls will be joining the next hunt. While walking together, Suma invites Lit to the next outing, but she declines, saying she's busy with copying textbooks. With a serious tone, Lit reveals she also has responsibilities and personal goals to fulfill. Suma jokingly guesses it's about a girl, causing her to react flustered and defensive. During a formal tea meeting, a noble acknowledges the influence of the Hammerbrook family, thanking the group for the intriguing updates. Guests discuss the family's donation to the academy offering repairs for old facilities, which seems generous at first glance. However, a sharper voice warns them not to be fooled, reminding them that a family of such power never gives without reason, and careless remarks can lead to consequences. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, hidden factions observe quietly. Political tensions rise within the academy's elite circles. Among them stands Matthew, Axia Hammerbrook, a prodigy and heir, unmatched in both academics and strength. Matthew, raised with noble expectations, is believed to reject commoners outright, but whether that comes from himself or his family remains unclear. Behind the scenes, it is revealed that the Hammerbrook family is responsible for restricting meat in the black dorms by pressuring merchants. Though offering minimal help, the noble hints that resolving the issue will ultimately fall to Suma and his classmates. Suddenly, a message reaches the tea party. All are shocked to learn the sender is none other than the third prince. Kier the prince appears and asks to speak privately with his brother, declaring he has something important to share. A thank you letter recently arrived from South Ryzen City's guild, surprisingly addressed to the White Riders. It credited them for eliminating the red arm bear in the northwestern forest, causing visible confusion. Since the area falls under academy control, night intervention should have been impossible, leaving the true identity of the one responsible unclear. Strained relations between knights and adventurers made this development both awkward and politically urgent. Kier, still investigating, asked for any future discoveries to be reported directly, hoping to trace the source of the unknown action. With a serious expression, Kier agrees to reconnect after the case is closed, trusting the matter will be handled properly. While walking, he reflects on the clues. Only students entered the forest, and knights were barred, leaving one possible culprit. Back at the academy, Suma gets confronted, his peers baffled by what exactly he's done this time. A crowd of students reveals they skipped their assigned training, much to his visible disappointment. Excuses pour out, but Suma reminds them as long as someone can protect them, it doesn't always have to be him. Suma explains the purpose of beast hunting. It's meant to sharpen teamwork and prepare for the upcoming interclass battle. A mock battle is proposed on the spot. Only the winning group earns the right to join the next hunt. Clashing swords erupt across the field as boys fiercely compete, each determined to prove their readiness. Exhausted students collapse in disbelief, stunned at how skilled their supposedly weak classmates have become. Shocked voices rise, questioning how the underachievers rumored to be worthless in combat managed to completely dominate the match. While Tacho trained, he realized those boys had consistently followed the regimen laid out for them. Morning drills, precise practice, and focus on feedback allowed them to close the gap in just 1 week. Despite their discipline, they still chattered endlessly, much to everyone's surprise and mild annoyance. Still, that constant communication helped sharpen their awareness of each other's strengths, making them strong team fighters. Suma encouraged everyone to think strategically. By simulating forest entry and testing assumptions, improvement wouldn't just be possible, it would be expected. In the quiet of the forest, someone softly calls out to Eliza, hinting at a deeper conversation. Asks about team plans for the interclass battle. Eliza responds confidently they're aiming for the top, but within reason. She believes boys and girls should train separately for now, as teamwork hasn't developed yet. He counters, insisting mixed training is vital for building familiarity and coordination. With a playful smirk, he adds that mixing teams also boosts motivation, especially among the boys, earning a mixed reaction from Eliza. Suma jokingly tells Eliza that this is how the world works, rallying the others to move out. Several teams return to campus with their hunting spoils, spirits high after a productive outing. While some groups still lag in performance, others show clear signs of growth, prompting interest from bystanders. Members of the Academy's news club suddenly appear, requesting interviews from top performers. Confused, Suma admits he's never even seen a school newsletter. Eliza confirms the club exists, but clearly hasn't made much impact yet. Gossip rarely reaches the lower-ranked classes. Most students from prestigious lines barely acknowledge others exist. Francis, charismatic and wealthy, becomes the center of attention. Journalists flock to him while he casually redirects credit to his team. Confidently, he claims any monster is manageable when 5 determined allies work as one. Compliments pour in from the Academy's news club, who eagerly ask if his words will make front-page headlines. Word spreads fast. Honors are awarded to Bloom Yellow and the Guild, marking a historic moment even higher classes can't ignore. A reporter suddenly asks for details about the Red Arm Bear incident, catching Suma off guard during Francis's interview. Francis confidently boasts about his team's power and implies that even elite monsters are within his reach, drawing admiration. He drags in Matthew's name and glamorizes the event, leaving Suma and his group stunned by the unexpected exaggeration. Suma stood stunned, as murmurs echoed around him. Students whispered about a group who defeated a red arm bear, the strongest from the elite class. Later, during an interview, someone asked about the bear's remains. Without hesitation, the blond boy casually stated they left the body behind. He clarified they never consumed the meat. Only a specific group, he implied, could stomach it without hesitation. That group soon appeared, the Black Soldiers. Their presence silenced the crowd. Suma watched in shock as recognition hit him. Around them, whispers turned sour. Students questioned Prince Drillzad's decision. An eager student rushed over, asking for a reaction to the monster meat. The question caught the boy off guard as he was still savoring the taste. He replied carefully, admitting that while monster meat had its uniqueness, farm-raised meat remained superior in flavor and quality. The interviewer beamed, noting how easily he could eat it, despite claiming he wouldn't touch it himself. After getting the quote, the group left swiftly. Onlookers whispered in disgust as they passed by. From behind, his classmates sighed. Their leader had once again spoken without thinking of the consequences. Within days, an article mocking the yellow spears circulated, drawing laughter across the campus. Its source traced back to an unexpected interview. In contrast, the Black Soldiers' story revealed their harsh reality, resorting to hunting and surviving on monster meat due to poverty. Suma read the article in horror. His careless words had become the centerpiece. A classmate scolded him, warning that one thoughtless reply had framed their entire image. His shock only deepened upon learning the paper cost a silver coin 10 times its worth. As he ranted over the cost, his friend snapped in frustration, demanding he take responsibility instead of rambling about money. Oriza clarified that the hefty paper price wasn't strange. Hundreds of publishers worldwide distributed the same article. Suma slowly realized the scale. Elsewhere, students speculated whether the controversial piece had boosted the Yellow Spear's popularity, now suspecting strategic intent. Despite losing credit for his quote, Suma remained oddly calm. His classmate couldn't hide her confusion over his collected demeanor. With a sly grin, he hinted at using the situation to his advantage. His companion, sensing trouble, felt a bad omen rising. Days later, new articles surfaced in the girls' dorms. Copies sold out instantly, sparking chaos as students competed to grab them. At the Emerald Girls' dorm meeting, the focus turned to a specific article that had caused quite a stir. Copies were passed around with concerned expressions. The piece featured a dramatized conversation between Matthew and Francis, laced with innuendo under the guise of a poetic spear duel. Gasps filled the room. One member cried out in embarrassment, seeing the content as shameless. Their idols were being portrayed too provocatively. The chairman, deeming it dangerous, ordered immediate collection of every copy and a strict report on its circulation. Before the motion passed, one member interrupted, asking for clarification on what strict enforcement would truly mean. A sharp exchange erupted over how many articles the senior class intended to keep. The answer 40 sparked immediate backlash. Tensions flared as accusations of power harassment flew. Amidst the uproar, one girl revealed the seller acted under cover of night, concealing their identity. To stop the spread, the committee vowed to confiscate all remaining copies and unmask the culprit responsible for the scandalous leaks. Speculation spread. Some believed the mysterious writer was a powerful upperclassman, maybe even someone admired. Theories grew with excitement and fear alike. Elsewhere, a girl from the Black Soldiers clutched the article, wondering if her words could ever mean anything to someone like Suma. When Suma confirmed Luchika was the writer, she turned red with embarrassment, though his encouragement made her smile. Her talent for weaving continuous stories and her consistent effort impressed Suma, prompting him to recruit her directly for the writing task. With new roles assigned in the class, Luchika's skills became vital. Suma praised her gift while she buried her face in embarrassment. Thanks to the success, Suma now earned weekly rewards, relishing the financial and strategic gains. As footsteps approached, he confidently declared all characters were fictional, just stories crafted from imagination, nothing more. Francis and Matthew walked through the corridor, puzzled by the unusual stares and whispers from the crowd around them. Before, the girls had kept their distance. Now they looked at the pair with sparkling eyes and bashful smiles. Meanwhile, Suma wandered alone, considering ways to print the stories more efficiently. Wooden blocks seemed promising but risky. A sudden voice stopped him. A girl reminded him of a forgotten promise. Realizing his mistake, he panicked under her intense glare. Moments later, she was all smiles, cuddling a fluffy cat Suma had caught. Peace, at least for now, was restored. Suma met with a noble girl who brought up Kilfrig, informing him she'd be questioning him in Kill's place. Sitting beside him on a bench, she asked directly why he hadn't told the truth in the interview. He hesitated, quietly explaining that he doubted anyone would believe him even if he had. He revealed that had he admitted the Black Soldiers defeated the creature, it would have been dismissed outright. After his gloomy explanation, he quickly lightened the mood, offering to tell her everything. She smiled faintly, reassured by his usual upbeat spirit. Suma leaned in and asked if the secret could stay between them. She blushed and nervously agreed, overwhelmed by the sudden closeness. He finally revealed his goal to lead their underestimated class to victory and prove their worth. During the class war in July, they would aim for the top. Though she doubted it at first, his confidence stirred her excitement. They discussed the confusion caused by the medal and the strange recognition from the guild. Something hadn't added up. She speculated that distorted reports led higher-ups to wrongly credit elite students, dismissing the Black Soldiers entirely. Complaints about blatant favoritism spilled out, though she insisted not everyone in power acted unfairly. A smile formed as he reassured her trust existed because of people like Lily and Kiru. Stretching with newfound energy, he proposed a bold vision. Wouldn't victory feel incredible? Her quiet awe said everything. Excitement surged in his voice. Confidence radiated from his stance. She stared, stunned by his passion and certainty. Right as she absorbed his resolve, another question surfaced. Could someone among the Black Soldiers have leaked sensitive information? Uncertain about spies, he gave no real answer. She accepted it and walked off, leaving behind a curious silence. Alone, her thoughts lingered. His confidence stirred something. Doubt mixed with intrigue as she wondered if his methods might truly work. Recalling how easily he spoke of harsh truths, she smiled faintly. Even the part about the meat, he hadn't flinched. Elsewhere, a cloaked figure approached the Hornet Company, intent on seeking answers. Hidden motives stirred beneath the surface. Pulling back her hood, the girl revealed herself with quiet urgency. A single question escaped her lips. Through the quiet alleyway, a cloaked figure stepped forward and stopped at a modest doorway, scanning the area before making a move. From inside, a boy rushed out in shock, clearly overwhelmed by the sudden appearance of someone he hadn't expected to see again. Tears quickly filled his eyes as he spoke of their fears, explaining how everyone had assumed the worst. Struggling to hold back emotion, he sobbed uncontrollably, while the cloaked figure calmly admitted there had been reasons to remain hidden. Reflecting on the past, the survivor solemnly stated he was the only one left alive, a truth too heavy to forget. The cloaked student explained how her grandfather's influence allowed her entry into the academy under discreet circumstances. Concern flashed across the boy's face as he asked if she was unharmed, mentioning others who had been in danger. She recalled Matthew, someone she had met before, hinting at his involvement and possibly his awareness of her presence. Grinning slightly, she clarified that Matthew likely wouldn't notice her, since she passed as a male among the academy students. By posing as a commoner, she could remain hidden in plain sight, unnoticed by those who might otherwise recognize her. While walking beside her companion, she reflected on how her grandfather's risky plan might have been the right choice after all. A conversation shifted to a recent deal she had attempted to sell black soldier meat discreetly, avoiding use of the Hornet name. To her surprise, the managers denied further aid, stating it was for her own safety due to the Hanabrook family's involvement. Realization struck her. No matter how much she concealed it, the nobles would trace the Hornet's ties and uncover her connection. Even though she barely passed the entrance test, she couldn't abandon the Hornet name despite the growing risks it carried. Resources had nearly vanished when her grandfather decided to abandon the Hornet name entirely. Rather than risk exposure, he chose her mother's surname, believing it would offer better concealment. Though meant as protection, the disguise made her feel like she was rejecting her true identity and her parents' legacy. Tears welled in her eyes as she remembered how the managers, despite their limitations, felt helpless and heartbroken over her silence. Amid quiet streets, her friend gently reminded her of hunger's sting and urged her to act not as a name, but as herself. Among cheerful classmates, a trio of students stood close, carefree, united, and clearly enjoying one another's company. Watching from a distance, she remained unsure how to connect, sensing she'd lose track of them the moment her guard slipped. Still, determination filled her eyes. She resolved to stay close and keep pace, no matter how unpredictable they were. Yet despite her earlier resolve, carelessness crept in, leaving her overwhelmed and exhausted from the effort. Relief came in the form of a friend's bright voice, assuring her that everything would turn out fine in the end. When asked what he'd been up to, he brushed it off with a grin, proudly claiming he had nothing to hide. Skepticism rose as the girl reminded him that Larry Rose wasn't the kind to share her feelings freely, yet he'd casually used her nickname, without hesitation. He pointed out that Larry was still a girl, dismissing any doubts about his harmless conversation with her. Curiosity sparked when he mentioned someone stockpiling meat, shifting the mood as the girl's reaction betrayed deeper concern. Despite her unease, she denied any knowledge, while he shrugged, deciding to hunt for answers and meet on his own. Plans for the final team training were underway, and Suma encouraged her to join once preparations were finished. Before she could explain her hesitation, Suma leaned in, checking her forehead with concern. Startled by the sudden gesture, she panicked while he calmly concluded she was healthy, smiling with relief. Moments later, they prepared to leave, yet something lingered in her expression, an unspoken thought she couldn't ignore. With quiet sincerity, she asked Suma for help if anything happened to her. As roommates, she hoped he'd stand by her side, smiling brightly. Rit expressed her excitement about seeing Suma's upcoming match, especially his battle with Miss Ariza. Once they arrived, the instructor gathered the students to assign teams for the final simulation exercise. Class battles were structured in 4 versus 4 matches, with ranks determined by losses and the protection of each team's general. As opinions clashed over how to split teams, the instructor decided to organize the boys first and figure out the girls' placements later. To her surprise, Ariza was assigned to Suma's team, an outcome he celebrated with cheerful enthusiasm. While she reacted with visible unease, doubt crept into the group when someone joked that Ariza's presence would bring bad luck to the team. With a sigh, she agreed they'd likely face the strongest class, while the others jokingly lamented their fate. Inside the library, their teacher questioned the commotion, surprised to see them already preparing so seriously. Eager to prove themselves, the group declared they were aiming for the top, despite pressure building from loud predictions. Noticing his teacher's stress, Suma offered help sincerely, asking if things weren't going as planned behind the scenes. With a heavy sigh, the teacher admitted he no longer remembered why he continued studying, lost in hopelessness. After a pause, he revealed the reason: his sister's illness, which had driven his every effort so far. He'd tried creating a unique medicine, one money couldn't buy, balancing his role as both alchemist and pharmacist, despite all attempts. The cost of new treatments forced him into uneasy deals, including work for the black soldiers. In a quiet room, his sister Ranjin sat weakly, refusing food, her condition slowly worsening as he carried the burden alone. The teacher confirmed what they feared: his sister's lack of appetite posed real danger if it continued. He explained that her condition was known as yellow rot, a disease commonly found in his hometown. Though once believed to be local, it had appeared in other regions too, leading researchers to suspect a parasite. Despite the illness, his town was clean and well lit, with healthy crops, making the disease even more perplexing. During autumn, golden fields stretched across the land, yet the beauty of the yellow sea couldn't hide the sickness that lingered beneath. Suma hesitated as he tried to form words, his unease catching the teacher's attention. When asked if he knew something about yellow rot, Suma admitted a vague suspicion, but wasn't confident in it. Desperation took over as the teacher urged him to share anything, no matter how small. Clinging to hope, preparing to speak, Suma took a step forward, ready to ask an important question about the teacher's sister's condition. Suma and his group visited the infirmary to inquire about a rare illness afflicting his sister. The doctor listened carefully as they described her symptoms. As Suma explained the yellowing of her skin and pale complexion, the doctor's face grew serious. He recognized the signs immediately. 2 weeks later, Suma's class shifted focus. Everyone began preparing for the upcoming battle, forming teams and training under Suma's guidance. During the rainy season, they smoked meat to preserve food. Suma explained the method to the surprised teacher. The teacher slowly warmed up to the class, helping preserve meat and interacting more. Though still awkward among the students, Suma approached the teacher and asked about any recent news from his hometown, hoping for updates regarding his sister's condition. With a distant gaze, the teacher confessed there had been no reply. Suma realized that the instructions he gave should have produced a response by now. Doubt crept in. Suma began to question his assumptions, feeling he might have misunderstood the situation entirely. While students welcomed a cheerful newcomer, the teacher's sudden behavior became erratic, startling everyone as he disrupted their activity. Without warning, the teacher collapsed. Panic spread as Suma called his name, unsure what had just happened. Ranjin appeared before her brother, smiling brightly and calling out to him. Shocked, he ran toward her, overwhelmed and confused. He embraced her tightly, still doubting if she was truly there. She confirmed her identity and shared that the letter's instructions had helped her recover. With teary eyes, she explained that she wanted to come as soon as she regained her strength. Overcome with emotion, her brother knelt in front of her as she thanked him from the heart. The class watched in awe, realizing Suma's guidance had truly saved her life. Suma reflected on the teacher's hometown, noting how they harvest yellow grain faster in the outskirts, linking it to local dietary habits. He theorized that the sickness might stem from white rice, which lacks vitamin B1, a deficiency known to cause illness in the past. As the teacher welcomed his sister with a smile, he learned that understanding vitamins and countermeasures had only come much later in history. Watching them together was moved. It was the first time he saw the teacher genuinely happy. Elsewhere, in a formal chamber, a new and possibly political discussion quietly began to unfold. Tension filled the room as two groups faced off, locked in silent rivalry under a heavy atmosphere. Accusations began to fly. One side demanded answers, while the other fired back with pointed remarks and growing irritation. Insults escalated. One faction criticized the other's wealth and arrogance, while their rivals dismissed the argument with smug confidence. The standoff intensified. Both leaders exchanged sharp glares, silencing the crowd with their presence alone. Demands became direct. Spies disguised as mechanics were accused of tampering with a dragon. Promises to issue warnings weren't enough. Tensions remained unresolved. A blunt question hit hard: was the Red Arm Bear really taken down by him? Doubts lingered, yet the rumors persisted. Skepticism followed. Combat experience was questioned, though one side hesitated to make assumptions too quickly. Basic school rules required monster subjugation before admission. Technically, all students had met the requirement, but not all efforts were equal. Recollection surfaced: he once landed the final blow on a weakened monster during a group hunt. Barely enough to count. Frustration boiled over. Without confidence, claims should be kept quiet, especially in front of those demanding proof and strength. Fury erupted. Accusations of exaggeration and dishonesty were shouted across the room. One side demanded accountability for any lies told. A hand stretched forward, demanding full disclosure. Every detail related to the spies must be surrendered immediately. Tension rose even higher as an implied demand to submit as an underling surfaced, crossing a line that stunned onlookers. Rejection followed swiftly. Allegiance had already been given to the crowned first prince. Barbaric behavior had no place among their ranks. A mocking smile appeared. Rank disparity was thrown in his face. Being second lowest in class came with no fear or respect. Clenched fist interrupted the rising tension. Eyes locked as emotions stirred. Past events were being dragged to the surface. Mocking words struck deep. Defeat to a Viscount's prodigy was used to undermine pride, pushing further into humiliation. Silence swept across both groups. Each side stood firm, expressions tense, refusing to show weakness. Frustration boiled over. The instigator warned them not to test his patience before storming out, leaving doors rattling in his wake. Whispers followed his exit. A single voice broke out, calling out his behavior, summing up the sentiment shared by the entire room. A sudden realization struck. Rumors about the Red Arm Bear had originally started with someone from their own group. Francis admitted he thought it would help establish their presence. Intention wasn't malice, just naive ambition. Questions flew fast. Had he really defeated the bear? His hesitant response only deepened the confusion and suspicion. He scrambled for justification, citing a family history of monster hunting and a role in the nation's defense. Doubt lingered. His peers recognized the bluff, though one admired his boldness. Inwardly, others questioned how selfless or foolish he truly was. While some saw it as weakness, others believed Francis only wanted to restore his family's honor, even if it meant bending the truth. Rumors spread further. Mockery followed. Yellow classes dropped to 5th place, increasing pressure to improve performance in upcoming battles. With suspicions now shifted, one question echoed: who truly defeated the Red Arm Bear? The monster had clearly shaken even the fiercest students. He considered all possible culprits, including first years, and realized proper intel was necessary. More spies would be needed. A firm vow was made. Everything he had would now be devoted to gathering information. Intel was all he could offer. Bandaroo walked the corridor, determined to hold someone accountable. The crowned prince's importance was clear, but he too had his own goals. Staring out the window, he reflected on unfinished tasks. Hornet echoed in his thoughts, a reminder of what must be resolved next. After a successful hunt, the group gathered around their fallen prey, pleased with their progress. Encouraged by their rhythm, Suma suggested continuing at the same pace. His skill at avoiding blood splatter was noted by his teammates. Just as he laughed, a sudden arrow struck the tree next to him with intense force, startling everyone. An arrow had flown dangerously close, causing a moment of panic. Though unharmed, Suma apologized. One teammate examined the embedded arrow, shocked by the power behind it from such a long distance. The group noticed that Obit's new skills, archery skills, and power of steel, had awakened, surprising his comrades. They discussed the significance of high firepower in long-range attacks, impressed by how much stronger Obit's shots had become. Confusion rose when one of them questioned why Obit could now activate an extra skill, wondering if it was supposed to be easy. Suma explained Subin's sword-enhancing ability, but confirmed Obit's bow lacked such traits, leading to more questions. Oriza, feeling frustrated, reminded them she still ranked first among commoners, and challenged the relevance of trial and error to her own abilities. As the masked observer reacted in shock, Suma hesitated, unsure how to respond to the sudden attention. He revealed he had been studying various skills to match them with others, prompting Oriza to ask about her own potential. Though she felt her help was limited, the group noted her strong kicking ability, reminding her that usefulness wasn't just tied to hunting. Suma suggested she needed proper gear, proposing a shopping trip after school for enhanced equipment to support her skills. Embarrassed, Oriza clarified it wasn't a date, while Suma nervously agreed, leaving both flustered as their friends watched amused. The group decided to visit a workshop that specialized in equipment for the black soldiers, with Rito guiding the way. Upon arrival at the cave, Ironblood blacksmith workshop, they requested gear enhancements for their unit. Their request was met with a firm rejection, the smiths loudly refusing their services. Frustrated, the craftsmen accused them of making endless demands without paying, despite all the effort they had invested. Eventually, they revealed the only way to negotiate was to bring Fruchen, a feared upperclassman with orange hair and snake-patterned shaved sides. Before leaving, Suma paused to whisper something to the blacksmiths, asking them to hold off on final decisions about Oriza's gear. Whatever he said brought instant smiles to their faces. They agreed to help, their anger replaced by cheerful laughter. Turning down an invitation to drink, Suma told the others he had details to sort out, casually walking off with a grin. Rito realized Suma had secretly paid a large amount, calling it an investment in his friends without hesitation. Back at the dorms, Oriza expressed confusion over Suma's mysterious actions, still unsure what exactly he was up to this time. Oriza reassured Rit that Suma wouldn't cause any trouble, though she admitted some concern, with a smile. She explained she had asked Suma to avoid anything reckless, then watched Rit rush off with understanding. Despite her words, Oriza tried to distance herself, not wanting to be dragged into any new problems, but her thoughts lingered on Rit. Meanwhile, Suma attempted a sales pitch at a market, only to be told he needed a business license. Panicking, he realized he didn't have one. The fear of losing all his hard-earned gains left him devastated and overwhelmed. At a formal office, Rit and Suma waited for the results. The staff member returned with an assessment of their submitted items. To their shock, the total value amounted to $7,500 in mixed currency, leaving Suma stunned. They celebrated with a cheerful high five at the Adventurers Guild, thrilled by their unexpected success. By paying 5 silver coins, they secured a guild pass, giving them the right to legally sell their products. Suma praised Rit for his help, jokingly calling him a CEO's son. Rit, surprised, denied it, clearly confused by the assumption, explained that Rit's reactions to money and a bit of intuition led him to suspect Rit came from a wealthy background. Rit After hesitating, confirmed the guess and stated he would also take a fair share of the profits this time. Their conversation was interrupted by a familiar face, a man Suma had met before, who walked in unexpectedly. He turned out to be the adventurer involved in the forest incident from earlier. As they shared a table, the group exchanged updates, with Suma explaining their current venture of selling forest goods. The man introduced himself as Prawn, realizing he had never shared his name before. Suma responded politely, albeit a bit awkwardly. Suma admitted that even if they were students, their class was considered hopeless, and Rit asked if he could drop the formality. Prawn explained he was there to discuss the red arm bear incident, and to thank whoever was responsible for defeating it. Caught off guard, Suma struggled to answer when asked who subdued the monster. He nervously claimed they hadn't seen the culprit, insisting the beast was defeated while they weren't looking. Prawn explained they'd been searching for someone strong enough to defeat a red arm bear, assuming it had to be a royal knight. When the staff member mentioned a student, Prawn was stunned. The description hinted at someone just like Suma. It was revealed that the subjugator was a 13-year-old student, causing visible shock across the table. Prawn dismissed the idea. Even a prodigy, he argued, couldn't defeat such a beast. All signs pointed to an adult's strength. He speculated further if the bear was uninjured, and someone truly bested it, that presence in the forest posed a much greater threat. Suspicion grew as Prawn noted something strange. His instincts told him details weren't adding up. Suma tried to deflect by focusing on the outcome. The red arm bear was defeated, regardless of the method. Rit, meanwhile, panicked quietly, unconvinced. Prawn announced his intent to escalate the issue, planning to report everything to higher authorities for further investigation. Rit suggested they leave quickly. Suma agreed, realizing they might have pushed their luck too far. Outside, Suma sighed with relief. The tension had nearly crushed him, and he wondered aloud when exactly he'd crossed a line. Rit demanded an explanation, her voice firm and direct, wanting to know the truth behind Suma's actions. Tension built as she glared silently. Suma froze under her gaze, unsure how to begin. After a moment, he admitted there was something he hadn't told her. She looked away, disappointed, calling his name softly. Suma insisted it wasn't about hiding things, but she interrupted. He always withheld the full truth. Her voice turned bitter. He had described their group to Mr. Brown as a hopeless class, destined to fail, and it stung. Overwhelmed with emotion, confronted Suma about his harsh words. Her frustration grew as she demanded to know his intentions. Rit stood before him, visibly upset. He realized his careless words about the black class being destined to fail had reached her ears. Confronted him, pointing out how often he had started comparing classes, feeding a growing divide. She accused him of assuming most aristocrats were bad, while he insisted the black class would rise above the rest through effort. Faced with her challenge, he hesitated, unsure how to respond, doubt creeping into his mind. He questioned himself, did he truly believe the yellow class was filled with lazy, privileged students? Rit lashed out in frustration, demanding to know why he, a black class member, judged others by their class ranks. He admitted his mistake, realizing how his views had been unfair, and offered a sincere apology. Rit, surprised but moved, acknowledged his growth. Overwhelmed by emotion, he broke into tears, declaring how happy he was. Rit stood quietly, watching him sob. Trying to lighten the mood, she warned him not to expect forgiveness just for crying, then suggested returning to their group. Suddenly, she remembered a past conversation, grabbing him with renewed energy to demand answers. Rit pressed Suma for answers, clearly frustrated, urging him to speak up without hesitation. Suma tried to laugh it off, brushing the moment aside, but Rit snapped, stressing how serious the situation actually was. With urgency in her voice, Rit warned him that if the yellow class got exposed for lying, they'd despise him completely. He defended himself, claiming no ill intent, but Rit pointed out how obvious his involvement would appear. Losing patience, she emphasized how dangerous the yellow class could be, while Suma raised his hands, unsure how to calm her down. Rit expressed frustration, admitting jealousy over Suma's carefree attitude, while he dismissed the issue as the yellow class's problem. Although Rit reminded him the lie about defeating the red arm bear wasn't their fault, she couldn't shake the unease growing inside. Later, the two stumbled upon a public notice pinned at the academy, drawing curious attention from passing students. The announcement confirmed a student from the yellow class had been suspended for spreading false information. Seeing the consequence unfold, Suma was filled with guilt, believing his earlier remarks had contributed to the punishment. Gossip spread among students, blaming him for the suspension and even accusing him of disrupting their meat supply. Just as tension rose, one of the yellow class students appeared and confronted him about exposing their lie. Although Francis had lied, the accuser insisted. There was no justification for snitching, challenging his motives directly. With narrowed eyes, he asked if this was an attempt to provoke a fight, his tone sharp and cold. Others quickly stepped in, urging him to calm down, though his angry expression betrayed anything but peace. Insults were thrown his way. Being in the black class made him trash, regardless of lineage or ability. A bold proposal followed. The upperclassmen offered support, financial, even if he agreed to obey orders and raise black class's standing. Suspicion crept in, though nothing seemed immediately wrong. The condition was clear: maintain top rank or face expulsion. Hearing about the involvement of both the headmaster and a powerful duke left him stunned. Facing that kind of authority left no room to resist. Realization hit hard. The seemingly childish aristocrat held a title far above what he had imagined. A sudden question about someone named Hornet caught him off guard. Recognition flashed. Hornet was Rit's surname. With no explanation, the noble demanded Hornet be handed over. Tension instantly surged. Confusion turned into disbelief. Random commands to surrender a classmate were outrageous. Refusal came firm and clear. There would be no handing over, no submission. Face darkened with contempt, the noble declared the need to teach him respect, warning him to prepare for consequences. Exhausted and confused, he returned to his room and told Rit about the strange demands from Matthew. As repair crews worked around campus, he noticed one pattern: none of the improvements reached the black class areas. Laughter masked the sting of being excluded. Rit and he joked, but the reality felt heavy. Elsewhere, students celebrated as rice supplies were restored. Meanwhile, he proudly announced securing food for their class. News of upcoming class battles dropped. His eyes locked on the final match. Black class was set to face yellow class. Class battle results sparked shock. Rit walked off looking uneasy, just as he realized yellow class was their opponent. Electric tension filled the air when he stumbled into yellow class's territory. Eyes locked on him with suspicion. Several yellow class students mocked his presence, reminding him that being lower ranked didn't justify stepping into their space. Back with his group, he rallied the black class for intense training, knowing what was at stake in the upcoming match. Elsewhere, Matthew confirmed everything was unfolding. As he planned, this confrontation was no coincidence. Plans were set in motion. Yellow class aimed to crush black class completely and claim the top rank without question. Matthew rallied his classmates, stirring them with fiery determination and confident commands. Laughter echoed as some students casually mocked black class, already assuming an easy win. Calling Francis aside, Matthew addressed him with a calm but firm tone. A strict warning followed: no one was to lay a hand on black class before the official match. Matthew's strategy was calculated, and he wanted nothing to disrupt his perfect plan. Francis stood alone in the hallway, withdrawn, holding his chest with unease. Memories of his suspension lingered as he watched classmates move on. Full of energy and excitement for the battles ahead, determination surged. Their opponents declared confidently they would crush the black class without mercy, unaware of the fight awaiting them. With the opponent now confirmed, Suma takes charge and proposes weekend training out in the fields, addressing his classmates. He announces a change: their usual hunting day will become a practice session, prioritizing combat preparation over food gathering. One classmate panics at the news, fearing a meat shortage if the beast hunt is cancelled. Chaos follows. The students cry out in despair, unable to accept a week without meat. Suma hesitates, weighing the training's benefits against the class's outrage, unsure whether to revert the plan. To settle the uproar, a decision was made to handle the issue the following day. Morning arrived with a glimmer of hope. Trays of freshly prepared meat stunned everyone. Cries of joy echoed as sausages and ham filled the room. Students rushed forward, savoring the rich flavors without hesitation. News spread that a new butcher had approached the school with lower prices. Staff revealed the supplier's name: the Hornet shop. Rit, proud yet calm, admitted it was her family's business. Despite risks from noble pressure, she had secured the meat without regret. With a smile, she waved off the concern. Trusting her grandfather's strength, she invited Suma to join her for the well-earned meal. Gratitude filled him for Rit's help. Knowing her support allowed room to increase the training schedule without delay. Fatigue soon overtook the group. Complaints echoed across the path as students slumped, unwilling to train or walk any further. Motivation had to be restored. A reminder was given: failure meant expulsion for some. The group reluctantly acknowledged the stakes. Relief was short-lived. Upon reaching the bathhouse, a shocking sign revealed its closure due to a problem. Stunning everyone, panic spread. Smelling of sweat and desperate for rest, students flooded the dorms while calling out urgently for Suma's attention. Shattered glass lined the hallway. Every window had been broken. Confusion spread as only the first year's bath was shut down. Speculation began. One student suggested the chaos was retaliation, likely involving a class led by a high-ranking noble. Frustration mounted, forced to seek an alternative. Some even joked about using the courtyard fountain. Then the noble Matthew appeared. Criticism followed. Others in the academy expressed anger, blaming those involved for dragging everyone else into the mess. A quiet reflection settled in. Among broken windows and tense silence, one thought lingered. Man, lying alone in his room, frustration sank in. Even the upperclassmen had grown irritated by recent events. Concern showed on Rit's face as she entered, questioning whether they should abandon everything and just give up. Warnings followed. Standing against Matthew, a dangerous noble, could worsen the harassment and drag others into deeper conflict. Worried eyes met his. Rit feared for his safety and questioned any deeper connection between him and the noble. Gentle smile broke the tension. No regrets were shown. Handling difficult situations, even with risks, was simply his specialty. A sharp warning came during evaluation though, scoring high. The real issue was clear. The source of trouble lay within the yellow class. Conversation shifted to motive. No reason existed for second years to interfere, meaning first years had become the main target. Confronted with the situation, a question arose about strategies for defeating the yellow class outright. Unfortunately, resources were too limited. Doubt crept in. With evidence too weak to support any claims, the tone from the girl turned subtly intense. Letters were mentioned as potential leads. The only way forward now was to start tracing the communication trail. Options felt limited. Tracing letters seemed pointless now that the suspects had likely left the school. Suma asked for Riley's honest opinion. Caught off guard, she hesitated before imagining herself in his position, an unfamiliar question that shook her composure. Nobles rarely cared for others' views. In her world, decisions were handed down, and her own thoughts were never requested even in simple conversations. The problem ran deeper. Those born into power often grew up detached from empathy, manipulating others freely without consequences. Such was the reality of the elite, a life of control, untouchable by ordinary concerns. That system now stood against Suma. If evidence was the only way forward, then that's what had to be found. Suma steeled himself for action. Plans kicked off with a chaotic visit to Furuchin's room. Startled and tied up, Furuchin demanded to know what was going on. With a cheeky smile, Suma asked for help sneaking into the yellow dorm, or as a backup, a trip to the workshop. Night fell as a cloaked figure moved through the dorm halls. Silence filled the corridor. No one seemed to be around. Information checked out. The first years were upstairs, leaving the hallway clear. Slipping into a room, the investigation officially began. A surge of tension pulsed through him. To avoid suspicion, Suma activated Lightning Bagudo and prepared to move quickly. With a swift dash and careful silence, he slipped through the hall and entered the room destination Matthew's quarters. Surprise filled his face. The dorm room had an elegant bath and fully furnished space. This level of luxury was unexpected. Even more shocking, the residents had their own private rooms, a far cry from what his class experienced. A drawer near the desk caught his attention. Inside lay a mysterious book, its appearance formal, possibly valuable. Something wasn't right here. Suma flipped through the book, hoping to find evidence. The neat writing raised suspicion it might be a diary or personal notes. As pages turned, something unusual caught his eye. Confusion set in when he noticed strange symbols. This book wasn't ordinary at all. A group of elite students gathered for tea, exchanging light-hearted remarks about parties and leisure, unaware of the tension beneath the surface. As the mood settled, attention turned to Matthew. The conversation shifted from small talk to the pressing matter at hand. With the class battles approaching, one student casually questioned how prepared they all felt for the competition. Confidently, they dismissed the threat of the black class, despite rumors of the newcomers' impressive abilities. But one student grew serious, warning that if they faced black class's strongest, things might not go their way. While walking through the corridor, Francis questioned Matthew about the strength of the rival class and whether he wished to switch classes. Matthew explained that class changes were rare and offered no real benefits, especially for those already placed in the yellow class. Frustration welled up in Francis as he insisted Matthew deserved to be among the elite in the blue class. In response, Matthew urged him to let go of the thought and move forward without resentment. With calm conviction, Matthew expressed his quiet pride in simply being part of the yellow class. Francis looked surprised when Matthew admitted he valued the yellow class simply because his friends were part of it. In another part of the academy, concern grew over shifting school power as the senior students, including the royal heirs, began graduating. With determination, Matthew vowed to rise above all others, aiming to lead the yellow class through strength and resolve. He then proposed uniting yellow and blue classes into an alliance that could dominate the academy, gaining enthusiastic support. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupted them near the dormitory, drawing their attention to something unexpected below. Matthew admitted that few outsiders had ever entered the yellow dormitory, suggesting its isolation even within the academy. Francis shifted the topic, asking about relationships, hinting that now was the best time before arranged marriages became inevitable. After a brief pause, Matthew left with a small smile, while Francis teased him for caring more than he showed. Meanwhile, at the royal mansion, a violent scene unfolded, suggesting a darker subplot tied to noble tensions and brutal power struggles. Back at school, the boys vowed to grow stronger, aiming to crush noble dominance and defeat the black class in upcoming duels. Francis displayed an unsettling smile, consumed by the thrill of facing their enemies, while Matthew noted he still hadn't returned to normal. Suddenly alerted, Matthew rushed toward a door left ajar, sensing something was off in the room. He entered cautiously, discovering the window open and curtains fluttering, a clear sign someone had recently escaped. Approaching a desk, he noticed an opened book and questioned whether someone had gone through its contents. Panic set in, as he realized the intruder could be a threat, possibly from beyond his own class. Anger and frustration boiled over as he leaned against the desk, haunted by memories that refused to fade. Thoughts turned to a girl who once brought light to his world, free-spirited, noble by birth, and unexpectedly grounded. Despite rumors of her death, no body was ever recovered. Doubts lingered, especially after reading her diary. Details from her writings revealed pieces of her life, struggles, and sincerity. Even with his flaws, she believed in him. Love remained, even in fragments. She lived on in his thoughts, her presence woven deeply into his unhealed past. Kiru pieced together the truth. Matthew's actions were likely tied to his past feelings for the daughter of the Alberg house, someone he had quietly tried to protect, burdened by emotion. He continued to suppress his true feelings, leaving many unaware of what truly held him back. Francis, quietly distressed, tried to remain composed, despite everything unraveling around him. During a tense study session, Kiru admitted overstepping, explaining he only sought evidence. But the harsh reality struck his intentions may have caused more harm than help. Earning harsh judgment from allies and children alike, Suma hesitated but was reassured by Kiru, who smiled gently and urged him to lean on others more often. Confidence returned briefly as Kiru jokingly received praise for his insight, brushing off any concerns about the Yellow Dorm's safety. Discussion shifted toward the political ties of the Hamburg house, revealing how deep Matthew's influence ran through merchants and nobles alike. Suma questioned the implication, only to realize there was more than enough circumstantial evidence against Matthew. Fear sank in as Kiru warned that, in nobility's world, truth alone could be a death sentence. Kiru warned that revealing secrets about the Black Dorm could lead to deadly consequences, urging stronger protection. He explained Matthew's fixation on the daughter of the Augsburg house and his desire to protect Rit, who shared family ties. They realized no name appeared in the diary, sparking questions about the girl Matthew once loved. Finally, the name surfaced for Rit Lancia, Augsburg, and with it, a tragic tale waiting to be told. The root of conflict began with the early death of the Marquis's father, a tragedy that disrupted the lineage's balance. After his passing, the Marquis left behind a complex family, several wives and numerous children, each tied to noble blood. Among them, the eldest son was born from a baron's lineage, while the second hailed from a duke's family, creating tension. Power struggles erupted, with the stronger elder brother poised to win, but noble status favored the younger. Chaos followed: poisonings, bloodshed, and betrayal. By nightfall, the estate burned and all related to the Marquis perished. To end the bloody feud, the king resolved to destroy the Augsburg family. Nobles were divided, some supported the duke's son, others the barons. The discussion shifts when Matthew is revealed to be in love with someone from the same bloodline, raising questions about her connection to Rit. Suspicion grows as it's mentioned that someone had secretly entered Matthew's room, causing more confusion between the two. They agree to keep it secret from Rit to avoid upsetting her, knowing it would make her anxious. A week later, peace returns. Thanks to Kiru, no one dares to provoke the Black Dorm anymore. Their presence stirred fear. Suma suspected one of them was behind the growing tension. Inside, Ferruchin was furious. Seeing the old guard stationed outside confused him. Their age didn't match the threat level. However, he warned Suma not to be reckless. Those knights might be old, but they weren't weak. It turned out, the older one was a retired frontline warrior. His training never ceased, making him a formidable obstacle. Suma realized the truth. The man's power surpassed the average student's, making him a silent guardian few could defy. During a training session, students launched their attacks with confidence, shouting and striking hard, aiming to pierce through their opponent. Their enthusiasm backfired as the armored knight countered with a crushing shield bash, sending one flying. Panic erupted as they were outmatched. Suma applauded cheerfully from the sidelines, impressed by the knights Galahad and Joni, who easily dominated the sparring. Though the students lay scattered and exhausted, one expressed gratitude for the valuable experience the mock battle offered. He addressed the group, urging them to use their abilities wisely, not relying solely on raw power. Training resumed with criticism from the knights. They pointed out flaws in the students' pacing and energy control, including Suma's unexpectedly. One of the instructors called out Suma directly, encouraging him to step up and challenge them himself. Seizing the moment, Suma activated his skill Lightning Baguto and readied his dual swords with a confident grin. He lunged at the armored knight, engaging in a fast-paced duel, striking with precision and speed. After dodging and countering, Suma found an opening, determined to land a decisive blow as the fight reached its peak. As Suma closed in for a strike, the knight suddenly extended his weapon mid-combat, catching Suma off guard. A direct hit landed squarely on Suma's chest, knocking the air out of him. The knight calmly remarked on the missed opportunity. They paused, swords at each other's necks. Both acknowledged each other's strength, ending the duel in mutual respect. After that, the old knights ramped up the pressure, mercilessly overwhelming the rest of the students in brutal training. Later, Suma reflected on the day with his friends, sore but satisfied that they'd grown stronger through the pain. As they returned to the dorm, Suma suggested gathering everyone at the common room. His friend, however, had to meet his older brother. Suma teased him on the way, only to learn that his brother had invited him to join the government, being the family's heir. Suma revealed he planned another surprise, hinting at a repeat of his post-test gifts. Later, the students erupted with excitement as they unwrapped personalized black weapons. Surprised at the thoughtful gesture, everyone admired the gifts with their names engraved. Realizing Suma had once again outdone expectations, Suma proudly revealed the black weapons were his personal gift to everyone, stunning his classmates with generosity. He explained the weapons were durable, ideal for handling extra skills without risk of breakage, showing he'd considered their growth seriously. Gathering them all, Suma asked how many had acquired extra skills since enrolling. The number had risen to 8 in just 3 months, though he projected a steady pace. Internally he knew that was a lie, they could progress much faster. He rallied the black class, inspiring them to unite and rise, becoming the wall future nobles would have to overcome. Suma raised his black sword with pride, declaring it a symbol of unity and purpose for their entire class. Excited cheers followed. The students admired their matching weapons, feeling inspired. Still, Suma quietly worried if his words had sounded too dramatic. In the middle of the celebration, he noticed Rit was missing. He asked Suin, but got no answers. Meanwhile, Rit sat alone on a garden bench, her mood heavy with anxiety and reflection. Haunted by Matthew's obsession and her mother's help to escape, Rit feared being caught and dreaded what lay ahead. Though Rit's chances of inheriting the Ogberg title were slim, she acknowledged that it wasn't entirely impossible. The family had been wiped out. She feared exposure. If nobles discovered her existence, it could reignite deadly power struggles. She questioned why she should risk everything. Rit believed the nobility would eliminate her without hesitation. Remembering her dying parents' advice, she was urged to find true friends to trust. Now, looking at Suma, Rit realized she had found someone who wouldn't leave her alone in this world. Despite her inner conflict, she felt joy. Suma's kindness reminded her she didn't have to carry everything alone. Rit remembered her mother's lessons about the value of money, having saved diligently since her time at the Marquis's house. But after meeting Suma, she felt a shift in values, one that made her question her previous priorities. Stepping outside to clear her head, Rit realized how much she'd changed. Her thoughts were no longer just her own. She stumbled upon Francis, fixated on an erased notice board, his expression unreadable. Suspicion stirred. Confronting him, she demanded answers. Was he no longer pressuring the black class? And what exactly was Matthew planning next? Pressure on black class had suddenly ceased, prompting confusion. A firm explanation followed. Winning by any means was the only goal. Responsibility shifted swiftly. One student was ordered to carry out the plan without hesitation. Hidden behind a tree, panic surged. Suspicion grew. Something malicious was unfolding, and action felt urgently necessary. A textbook from the elite white class is handed over carefully, signaling the start of an unexpected task. After thanking her visitor, the girl is left alone. The room falls quiet as she prepares to examine the book. She flips through the pages, quickly noticing a series of numbers and scribbled text that seemed deliberately arranged. Following the instructions, she pulls out words from specific pages. Each reference forms part of a hidden message. The message reveals a shocking truth, one that sends her rushing outside, heart-pounding in disbelief. She overhears a disturbing plan. Someone in black class is marked as a target for elimination. While considering warning Suma and the others, she realizes doing so might disrupt their focus on the martial arts tournament. Conflicted, she imagines the cost. Injury or death would be irreversible, but even losing the tournament could be twisted to justify Suma's expulsion. Pressure mounts as she debates rallying the students to convince Suma to leave for everyone's safety. Tears fall. Faced with a heartbreaking choice, she clenches her fists, refusing to betray Suma or abandon her principles. Tears stream down her face as she questions why Suma, who works harder than anyone, is treated so unfairly. She wipes her eyes, feeling powerless as she watches Francis from afar, unsure how to protect him. The quiet night offers no comfort. Surrounded by laughter, she feels isolated, frustrated by the world around her. Memories surface Francis, full of conviction, rejecting the cruelty of aristocrats and vowing to never follow his father's path. In response, the girl gently teases him, revealing her belief in his good heart, despite the pain he carries. Francis defends himself, insisting he won't follow his father's immoral path. Her sharp retort questions his readiness for change. She challenges him directly, telling him that surpassing his father is the only true way forward, both as a person and a noble. The idea surprises him. For the first time, he considers that overcoming his father might define his future. With fiery resolve, he affirms his belief in himself. She smiles, reminding him not to waste the strength he already holds. Their playful exchange continues, ending in laughter. That day, two children unknowingly sowed the seeds of a deep bond. They continued exchanging letters, promising to meet again. But by then, Matthew was already changing. At social gatherings, Matthew stood out. His charisma and leadership marked him as a genius, with a unique gift known as the Great Contractor. Believing in her own role, the girl steels herself. She alone feels responsible for what must be done. Determined, she walks with purpose, calling Matthew's name silently in her heart, knowing what she must ask. Her decision is firm. She'll request Matthew to forget her and avoid involvement with Rit and the black class. Despite the danger, she steps forward, determined to protect Suma even if it means risking her life. To her shock, the girl before her reveals a hidden truth, calling her by her full name, Fuerit Lancia, Augsburg. Caught off guard, she asks how her identity was discovered. The other girl calmly replies she's known since enrollment. She explains everything clearly as long as Matthew fixates on her. He won't leave black class alone. Panic sets in. She demands to know how her secret was exposed and whether anyone else knows she's been pretending to be male. Surprised by the revelation, she learns someone else knows her secret. The first girl admits it was her because she looked kind of cute. Eliza steps forward, revealing she knew all along. A conversation with her brother had uncovered everything. Their talk had drifted from taxes to family ties, leading to Eliza learning about the Hornet and Augsburg connection. The boy explains his suspicion, noting her age and resemblance to the supposedly deceased daughter of the Augsburg house. Back in the dorms, concern had already been growing. Others noticed her distress and came seeking answers, leaving the dorm in a rush. Eliza finds her, worried. The urgency in her voice surprises everyone. Rose speaks calmly, explaining she understood how dire the situation must have been to force such a deep secret. She came because she wanted to help. Their shared concern led both girls to search for her together. United by purpose, they exchanged information around the yellow dorm. With gratitude, she makes a sincere request, asking for permission to pass and speak with Matthew. But hesitation arises. They question whether speaking with Matthew is truly necessary, fearing the consequences. Her path is blocked. Eliza and Rose insist she can't meet Matthew directly. If she wants to remain hidden, messages must be relayed through safer means. Their concern touches her. Tears threaten to fall, but she holds back, overwhelmed by their support. Despite that, she insists on solving the issue herself. Her thoughts momentarily scatter, but she reveals Francis's plan to restructure black class. Eliza pleads with her to open up, reminding her that they're there to listen and help. Rose demands answers. As a Scarlet class student, she insists on knowing what's truly happening. A quiet pause lingers as a supportive hand rests on her shoulder, grounding her in the moment, seated together. The girls consider the stakes. If she can reach Matthew, she might be able to stop Francis. They reflect on the prince's influence. Everyone competes for his favor, but she can't win this alone. Eliza urges her to let go of the burden. Facing danger alone isn't strength, it's recklessness. Cornered by emotion and guilt, she's asked the harsh truth: would Suma ever forgive her if he learned everything? She sits defeated, overwhelmed by royal pressure. Though aware of the danger, she now has no idea how to respond. In a quiet corner of the academy, 3 girls gather as one struggles with doubt. Another, calm and confident, proposes a straightforward way to move forward, shifting the mood. Drawing strength from Suma's example, she reminds them what he would do face hardship as a team. Encouraged, the others start to believe in unity. Though the aristocrats are ruthless, Real Rose still chooses to help. Her unexpected support leaves the others, questioning her motives, yet intrigued by her resolve. Memories of Suma's solo battle awaken a sense of responsibility. With newfound determination, she declares no one will fight alone again. Eliza smiles warmly, expressing gratitude for being heard. Her tone eases the atmosphere, bringing a brief moment of peace between them. Riel Rose hesitates, admitting her desire to avoid Suma. Her honesty surprises the others, but they accept her feelings without judgment. Despite Riel Rose's concern over having nothing to offer in return, the others reassure her it's not important. Support, not reward, is what matters to them. A cheerful idea lights up Eliza's face. She jokes playfully, praising Riel Rose's practical mindset. Together, they form a pact: whenever one struggles, the other 2 will always step in to help. Riel Rose questions the sincerity of their promise, uncertain if such words hold any true weight. Her doubt lingers, exposing her guarded heart. As panic begins to rise, her friends quickly reassure her. Despite her fears, they insist their support is real and unwavering. Gently, the others offer their hands, encouraging her to stand. Overwhelmed by kindness, she silently wonders how much more her heart can handle. Without hesitation, they declare a pact, an alliance of trust among the 3, bonds formed by choice, not obligation. From that moment on, their connection becomes unbreakable, promising to last forever. Eliza proudly declares her loyalty, promising to never forget the alliance they've made. Her voice carries conviction and warmth. She urges Rit to speak freely. With seriousness, they agree that this promise must remain their shared secret, binding them together in trust. Overcome with emotion, Rit expresses heartfelt gratitude. Tears of joy run down her cheeks as she thanks her friends for accepting her. As the meeting wraps up, they look to Real Rose for the next step, trusting her instinct and leadership without hesitation. Though uncertain, Real Rose reveals an idea, one that might just change everything. Serious discussion unfolds as Suma listens closely to Eliza and Rit, who analyze the current threat and evaluate the black class's strengths. Concern rises over nighttime vulnerability. While one guard watches over them, it is clear extra precautions are necessary. Suggestions to tighten security take shape quickly. Confidence in Eliza's strategy leads to its presentation to the guards. Approval follows swiftly, and defensive preparations begin. Barricades, traps, and camouflage set into place. Thanks to the upgraded measures, intruders attempting to breach the dormitory are swiftly apprehended. Rumors of increased surveillance spread. Frustration brews as one student suspects betrayal. Unaware of how deep the changes run, tension spreads as actions toward the black class grow suspicious. Moving against them now risks exposure and backlash. Conflicted thoughts swirl while one student debates his role. Even after doing so much, he feels pressured to continue digging for answers to protect others. Frustration builds as isolation sinks in. Trust remains out of reach, despite every effort made so far. Failure leads to scolding, disappointment replaces support, and whispered threats underscore just how fragile the situation has become. Tears fall quietly, with eyes full of regret. Francis receives one final warning: do better or face the consequences. Head bowed, Francis hides his pain, brushing off concern with a quiet dismissal. No explanation, just silence and retreat. Suspicion rises as more individuals are apprehended. The pattern isn't random, and questions begin to form. Confusion deepens. Vandalism hits classrooms, while guards keep appearing in strange places without warning or cause. Fearing a potential terror threat, school officials escalate precautions, positioning guards throughout the campus in response. With tensions high, some peace returns. Dorms remain untouched, and tournament training continues, giving students a brief sense of normalcy amid uncertainty. A reckless suggestion to start fighting one another is instantly rejected. The idea sparks chaos, drawing a loud, emotional outburst. Confidence fuels the group's resolve, while one insists on pushing forward. Another uncovers that their rivals possess additional skill perks. Orders delivered, he strolls off with relief. Time to relax before the next challenge arises. Rumors spread about a rare, deadly mushroom. It's valuable, but dangerous enough to kill if mishandled. Information flows freely. Even adventurers confirm its worth, but few would dare risk their life for such a perilous reward. Empty pockets and rising prices weigh heavily. After spending everything on weapons for the class, even basic funds are gone. The rare mushroom's value is too tempting to ignore. A flash of doubt crosses his mind, could this be bait? But logic is quickly brushed aside with a confident laugh. Without hesitation, he races into the forest, full of energy and hope. Money motivates more than caution. Excitement turns to surprise as he spots others nearby. Curiosity leads him deeper. Ambushed. His instincts were right all along, but now it's too late. Realization hits too late. It's a trap. Mocking voices confirm the setup. Greed for money had made him predictable. Surrounded. He's ordered to act. Pressure builds as the situation shifts from suspicious to dangerous. A familiar face emerges. Matthew. Shock floods in as something massive looms behind him, hidden in the shadows. With a twisted smile, Matthew reveals the truth. The creature behind the bars isn't just bait, it's a weapon meant to kill. Terror grows. A red armbear, stronger than anything faced before, glares through the cage. This time, survival isn't guaranteed. A pendant swings in Matthew's hand as he claims control over the beast. Panic spreads. This shouldn't be possible. Anger erupts. Rage fueled, words reveal a deeper grudge as he unleashes the monster. Driven by obsession and vengeance, tears mix with fury. Years of humiliation, rejection, and shame spill out his pain, laid bare in a torrent of emotion and blame. Without mercy, he utters a final word, control charm. In hand, he issues the command to kill. Cage flies open, and the red armbear charges. No turning back, death races forward under Matthew's command. The red armbear explodes from its cage, jaws wide and roaring, responding to the control charm on its head. A powerful shockwave sends Matthew crashing to the ground. The charm drops from his hand, scattering beads across the grass. Scrambling in panic, he grabs the pendant again, trying to regain control. His hands tremble as he lifts it. It's too late. The beast no longer responds. Fear overtakes him as the enraged monster turns on its former master. A blur cuts through the chaos. Suma's blade strikes clean. His zero slash lands before the creature can finish its rampage. Suma realizes his attack didn't work. He urges Matthew to get up and flee, knowing they can't win head-on. Without hesitation, he lifts Matthew onto his back and bolts. The bear charges close behind, focused only on escape. Suma blocks out everything. He pushes forward, ignoring Matthew's confusion and fear. Determined not to fall, Suma charges through the forest, no matter what. He refuses to die in that place.